TikTok, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. It's your two friendly neighborhood philosophers here. Well, your friendly neighborhood philosopher, D. Wood, and your not-so-friendly philosopher, Inspiring Philosophy. How you doing, IP?
We gotta do this again. We gotta point out it's wrong to thank
how is this a thing?
Again.
How is this a thing? How is this a thing? There's like... It's like an army of Dawah guys all trying to convince the world to go back to banging little girls. And there's like a couple of us saying, no, don't do that.
Yeah. If you would have asked me 5 years ago why I would be one of the leading opponents of child marriage online, I would have told you were crazy. That's not what I do. But apparently I have to, because these Dawah apologists can't shut up about how much it's okay to go after children. It's wow.
It is pretty wild, isn't it? It's like... as you just pointed out, if someone were to go back 5 years, David, IP, what are you going to be doing in 5 years? Oh, we're going to have to spend every waking moment explaining why it's not a good idea to bang little girls. Isn't that, I mean, it's just, wow. This is what Islam did. If I didn't know anything else about Islam, apart from the fact that it forces people to have to constantly explain why it's not a good idea for grown men to have sex with little girls. Wow. If that was the only thing I knew about Islam, I would think that we got a serious, serious problem here. But here we are.
It seems like it is. They always do this. Like another Muslim apologist starts getting famous. Someone points out, hey, Muhammad was sleeping with a 9-year-old. And instead of going, oh, well, let me just see what some of the scholars say, like maybe those hadiths are unreliable, maybe she was older. No, it's immediately, it was moral, it was right, it was a good thing he did. It's like they just immediately go to that apologetic. Let's just start defending this left and right. It's horrifying. That's their first place they go to. And it's all the popular ones. All the popular ones want to defend.
Yeah, and I've pointed out before, if you go back 15 years, the standard response was, nope, never happened. This is made up. It's a lie of the kuffar. And then we had to spend years saying, no, we're not lying. This is what's in your sources. And then as soon as they couldn't lie anymore about it being in their sources, then it became, and it's wonderful, it's good. Oh, only a secular leftist person would object to this sort of thing. And,
and most people throughout history, surprisingly.
Yeah, and there are all sorts of misunderstandings and misrepresentations. One of the times, because we went through a couple. One of the times we went through what the Muslim Cowboy was saying. He was claiming that as soon as a girl reaches puberty, so the day you have some sign that she is reaching puberty. And you give a brief rundown of what's problematic with this. The moment a girl reaches puberty, she's a fully grown woman and she's ready. She's ready to have children. What's the problem with that?
Well, everything. All the science shows that it is problematic. I mean, any girl under the age of 15 will more likely to die in childbirth, more likely to develop obstetric fistula, doesn't have adequate parenting skills, so we lead to higher rate of infant death for child brides, higher rates of depression, suicidal thoughts, mental disorders. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on because this is horrible.
So in short, when he says the moment a girl reaches puberty, she's ready. She's fully cooked. That's like saying, hey, I put all the batter and stuff in my cake and then I stuck it in the pan, and as soon as I stuck it in the oven, it's ready. No, it's not. It's not. Baking is a process that takes a little while. You gotta have your cake in there for, I don't know how long people cook cakes, but puberty is a process, and you can't find a Dawah guy who understands this at all. It's all old enough to bleed, old enough to breed.
Yeah, which is, we can get into some details later. Even people in the ancient world didn't think like that. Some sources talk about, or some historians argue that ancient people actually were marrying girls off late teens, early 20s, because they understood that girls were more likely to die in childbirth if they were not fully developed. And this is what the historical record seems to show. The Jews in Babylon seem to have been marrying younger, like early teens. They were the exception, Jews in Babylon. Jews in Palestine were marrying later. But they were the exception. Most people in the ancient world were marrying much older. But even with the Jews in Babylon, they were still far better than Muhammad because they were still waiting to at least 12. Muhammad had to get right in there at 9.
Yeah, so should we go ahead and jump into this video? We've got
Yeah.
wait, matter of fact, let me just recap. We don't need to add much commentary since just for anyone who didn't see one of our other live streams where we went through Muslim Cowboy's tweets. I'll just go ahead and I'll just read through these real quick so everyone understands what we're dealing with here. So this is how everything started. We didn't pick this dispute with the Muslim Cowboy. He just started defending child marriage and pedophilia on Twitter. So went sort of like this. This is this is him talking about us coming after him and so on. So someone said, yes, explain how is having sex with a 9-year-old girl is okay by anthropology, biology, or psychology? Yes, if she is a woman, and anthropologically women have become women at 9 all over the world. You really need to study, champ. So he's encouraging people to study.
Yeah, he should study up. That is just so blatantly false in so many ways. It's clear he has not even studied at all. And we'll demonstrate he's not even reading the very books he puts in front of him later in the stream.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I mean, this is another feature of Dawah, is to just make stuff up or to just say stuff or repeat a lie and then just say, if you know this, if you studied, if you see, you don't study. And so, yeah, we'll find out what happens if you can actually read words off a page, which is an ability sadly lacking in the Dawah community. So someone asked him, bro, is this you? Saying, hey, explain how sex with a 9-year-old girl is okay. And he said, yep, it's me. We support our prophet's marriage to Aisha at 9. No big deal. She was a woman through and through. 9 years old. She was a woman through and through. No one has ever defended child marriage. He's saying it's not child marriage. It's marriage between a man and a woman. It's not permissible to consummate with children, bright guy. So he's saying,
that's just false. Daniel literally agreed to debate me. Daniel Hakikichu agreed to debate me on child marriage. So he was defending child marriage. So
yes,
he doesn't even realize what his own Dawah community is doing.
Yeah, everyone calls it child marriage. The Muslim Cowboy gets this brilliant idea. Well, if I just say it's a different word, that will make it all different. Yeah, you can. I mean, yeah, you could. Muslim Cowboy, you could call a 1-year-old and just say, I say it's a woman. Now it's okay to bang her. And you'd still be a sick, twisted pervert. You know what I mean? A woman is a woman when they hit puberty. Making a certain age a number is arbitrary and makes no sense. Are we just arbitrarily putting a number in there, IP? We're just saying, hey, we're just going to pick this number, 18.
Yeah, no, that comes from that has a strong historical precedence of societies moving girls closer to that age over time. We see it in the Middle Ages with Kim Phillips points out in her book Medieval Maidens that kings would marry off their daughters, but at times they'd be like, hey, you can't consummate this till 16 or 18. So there was an historical precedence already moving in that direction, and modern medical research backs it up because girls don't complete puberty until the ages of 15 to 17. So it makes sense we grant the status of adulthood the following age.
Yeah, so people in the ancient world, guys, they could pick up on things, and they would pick up on things over time. Hey, don't eat those berries. Why? I don't know. Someone learned at some point not to eat those berries, so don't eat those berries. Don't bang little girls. Why? Well, we figured out that it's bad, and we've noticed a much higher degree of young girls having certain problems with things like childbirth than 16, 18-year-olds and so on. And so they pick up on that. And of course, later people figure out why that is. But there's one community that refuses to get this. When I say one community, I don't mean all Muslims. I mean the followers of Muhammad who are actually believe that he's the pattern of conduct and that he is the one who makes decisions like this. When is the appropriate age to have sex with a little girl? The followers who take Muhammad's example very seriously tend to have a problem here because they keep defending child marriage. And then they say things like this: making a woman is a woman when they hit puberty. That's false. Puberty is a process. It starts when you start puberty. When you hit puberty, you have entered a process that is going to take several years. Going to take
And
several years.
also, you got to notice something else about this. The ancient world didn't say this. This is just false. A lot of ancient writers said a woman is a woman when she starts her period. Puberty starts before the period. So you can have signs of puberty before you even get your period.
Mhm.
Now, Daniel Akigachu in my debate even admitted you could actually consummate the marriage with a woman who's not, or a girl who's not had her period, because that's permissible in Islam. And so this guy's saying, well, no, they are a woman the moment they hit puberty. That wasn't, even the ancient people knew that was stupid. They at least pushed it back to the age of monarchy. And in the ancient world, monarchy was roughly around the age of 16 due to poor nutrition.
Yeah. And so multiple problems here. A couple more real quick. It's funny how these kuffar equate marriage and rape. I knew they were dumb as crap, but this is next level. Because they call it. Yeah, why do they call it? Why do we call it raping children? One, because the child wouldn't know what she's even consenting to. She doesn't understand if it hasn't been really broken down to her what's going to happen. And most of us would say that a child is not capable of giving consent, right? Like Daniel's hypothetical 11-month-old baby scenario that you brought up to him. And he was concerned about whether you'd have parental consent or not. But according to his own definition, anyone who has any signs of puberty, which, as you showed in that debate, can happen as early as 11 months. I mean, I would hope that Daniel, and here's the thing, I don't think he would. I want to say, I hope these guys would understand that an 11-month-old baby is not capable of consent. The 11-month-old baby can't even talk, let alone reason and decide whether she wants to be married and to have sex. And yet these guys, following their definitions, couldn't say that. They'd have to say, nope, you don't need consent of an 11-month-old baby if you want to start having sex with her. You need parental consent. And that goes back to Fareed saying, how can anyone call it rape if there's parental consent? There's no concept of violating a little girl.
Also, do they not understand that there's such thing as marital rape? Even with an actual woman who's over 18, you can still commit marital rape if the woman in the marriage does not consent. I hear these Muslim apologists saying all the time that Islam respects women, and then they don't understand there's a concept of marital rape. So no, they don't respect women. They think that women should be allowed to be raped in marriages, regardless if they're of age or not. So apparently in Islam, there's no such thing as marital rape.
No, I've seen Muslim scholars make fun of that because in Islam, their idea seems to be having sex against the will of someone you're not allowed to have sex with. Like, that's what rape is. It has to be someone you're not allowed to have sex with. If you're forcing yourself on someone that you're allowed to have sex with, it's just not rape. They don't count it as rape.
So this is what Islam thinks of women, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a woman and you get married, your husband can do whatever he wants. He can rape you because Islam, according to them, this is how they respect women.
And it's, that comes from the Quran, Surah 2, verse 223, that your wives are a tilth, plow them however you want. And that was in response. Once you know the historical background, it's clear what that's talking about, because there were women who were refusing to have sex with their husbands in certain positions. They're saying, we're not doing that. And so it got brought to Muhammad, and Allah's response is, your wives are your tilth. They're your field for plowing. Plow them however you want. And so what's it saying? It's saying it doesn't matter if your wife wants to or not. Just do whatever you want to her. The Muslim Cowboy, nope, children are off limits. People are asking about, hey, so you're saying it's okay to marry children? He says, nope, children are off limits. The key is defining childhood. Yes, you can just define childhood. It's different at different times and locations. So his view is once a girl has reached puberty, even if she's an 11-month-old baby and she reaches puberty, then she is a fully grown, fully developed woman, and you can start having sex with her. And one of the things we pointed out in the other live stream was, even if you granted everything this sick pedophile is saying, and you granted that, yes, any sign of puberty is a sign that she's a fully grown woman and it's okay to start having sex with her. Even if you granted all of that, Aisha hadn't reached puberty, and puberty is not a requirement in the Muslim sources. Puberty is not a requirement according to Allah or to Muhammad. The Quran allows grown men to have sex with prepubescent girls. It allows grown men to marry, have sex with, and divorce girls all before they've reached puberty, and to pass the girl on to another man who, after waiting 3 months, he can have sex with her and he can divorce her. And a girl could be 7 years old and have had 5 husbands with no problem, according to the Quran. And so that's the Quran. And then Muhammad, of course, married Aisha, who was 6, and consummated the marriage when she was 9. And according to the Muslim sources, she had not reached puberty. She had not reached puberty. That's why she was allowed to continue playing with dolls. That's not according to us. That's according to Islam. So this is the sort of thing we're dealing with, where he doesn't understand what he's talking about on multiple levels. He doesn't know how puberty works. He doesn't understand what a woman is. And he doesn't even understand what his own sources say. Everything he's saying is wrong. And yet he's just getting started, because we've got the video we're going to be going through today. And it's questionable whether he is literate at all. And guys, when I say it's questionable if he's literate, I'm not using that as an insult. The best thing, the nicest we could be in this discussion is to assume that he's illiterate. That would be the nicest. Because if he can read, and he said what these sources say that we're about to put on the screen, if he said what he said about these sources and he is capable of reading, then the conclusion is that he is a flat out liar. It's not that he's stupid and doesn't understand what puberty is and doesn't understand what his own religion teaches after being in it for 10 years and being a Muslim apologist, and still doesn't know what his sources say. It's not just that he's wrong or ignorant. It's that he's absolutely, indisputably lying, which would be all too common in Dawah, sadly.
Yeah. Real quick, David, I need to just take my headphones out because they're being a little glitchy. I'll be back in like 30 seconds.
No problem. So comment here, the last tweet that we'll look at. The disbelievers think we should be ashamed of some things in Islam. There is not a single thing our prophet did that I myself wouldn't do. This is submission. This is the way. Unfortunately, we got him to modify this issue, because he was saying there's not a single thing our prophet did that I myself wouldn't do. So it got brought up to him. What about things that only Muhammad was allowed to do, like having 9 wives? You're not allowed to do that as a Muslim. That was just for him. So he acknowledged that he wouldn't do certain things that only Muhammad was allowed to do. And he acknowledged that since there are laws in the U.S. that Muhammad wasn't under, that he would have to obey the laws of this country. But then it started getting brought up to him, even with those modifications. You had the next Zakir Naik asked him, well, would you walk around in clothes covered in semen? And the Muslim Cowboy blocked him and called down Allah's curses upon him for saying that, which is a perfectly valid question, because he's literally the one who keeps bringing this up, that he'll do anything. And I asked him on Twitter, I didn't see if he responded, but I doubt he did. I just asked him on Twitter that since water was brought to Muhammad from the well of Buddha, and that had used menstrual rags, dead dogs, and that's where people would dump their buckets of waste, their toilet buckets. And Muhammad said water is clean and is not made impure by anything. I said, well, wouldn't you be willing to do that then? That's not breaking any laws, and it's not something that only Muhammad was allowed to do. And so this just gives rise to some very, very, very weird situations, and that brings us to today, where, what was it, yesterday? Did he post that video yesterday?
Yeah, I believe it was it was definitely yesterday or the day before, where he is clearly trying to do the typical Muslim knee-jerk reaction. When you point out how evil, wretched, and disgusting Muhammad is, what do they always do? Whataboutism. Oh, well, your prophet in the Bible did X, Y, and Z. Yeah, once again, Romans 3:23, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. We don't look at them as moral exemplars like you do. So basically, the whole video is nothing more than a tu quoque fallacy. For those who don't know, the tu quoque fallacy is when you go, you also. So if I catch David, stealing from the cookie jar, I say, hey, you shouldn't be stealing from the cookie jar. And he says, yeah, well, you did it when you were a kid. That doesn't mean what David did is okay. That's the tu quoque fallacy. And you also is basically what it means. So that's all this video is. It's a one giant tu quoque fallacy.
And it's extremely, they'll actually combine the tu quoque fallacy with not understanding that it's two completely different scenarios. So one, you are talking about your moral pattern of conduct who has Allah's stamp of approval on the things that he did. And so everything is being confirmed as the will of Allah, and it justifies these kinds of actions. Whereas someone in the Bible doing something is not the same thing. One, it's not coming from our pattern of conduct. Two, it doesn't mean it's justified. The Bible over and over and over again condemns people for doing things in the Bible. So their mindset is just weird. Their mindset is if someone in the Quran did it, then it's good, and you can't, no one can complain about it. Likewise, if someone in the Bible did something that a Christian can't complain, are you insane? The Bible condemns David for having his friend killed in order to cover up his affair. The Bible condemns him. So following their reasoning, we could never condemn killing a man to cover up an adultery because David did it in the Bible. We can never say anything about it. You can't say anything about it because it's in the Bible. So there's that problem that they don't seem to understand, that because someone did something in the Bible does not mean that the Bible is affirming it or that we're supposed to affirm it. That would make zero sense. You could not have a coherent view of the Bible and maintain that position. Yet they saddle us with that. And on top of everything else, so you pointed out it's a fallacy. Two, it's not even the same scenario. It's not even the same scenario. We're not talking about our moral authority doing something and us affirming it. We're talking about people that are called and exposed as sinners in the Bible. That's a completely different situation. They're not the same thing. So when they say, what about, in whataboutism, what about, it's not even the same thing. And then the final problem is they can't stop lying. They can't stop lying. So they're not even getting it right.
Sources right.
Yeah. And they're saying, but this is in the Bible, and it's not in the Bible. So it's if it were in the Bible, if it were in the Bible, it would be a fallacy, because if it's in the Bible that someone had sex with a little girl and your prophet that does not make it okay for your prophet to have sex with a little girl. You still have to defend your prophet having sex with a little girl and explain it. Worst case scenario, we would have to explain it too. You would have to explain and justify it. We would have to explain and justify it. So one, it's a fallacy. Two, they're not even getting the fallacy right. It's fallacious reasoning, and they can't even get that right, to say that we have the same problem, because it's not the same problem, because it's not our moral authority or our pattern of conduct doing this thing. We don't have to affirm it just because someone in the Bible did. We can condemn it when someone in the Bible does it. And then finally, of course, is that they're not even getting that right because they're just making stuff up and can't read words off a page. This is so ridiculous that we have to spend the rest of our lives. Here's what puberty is. No. That's not what your prophet said. Your prophet didn't say that. Here's what your prophet said. We have to teach you what your religion teaches. Oh, no. That's not what your Quran says. We have to teach you what the Quran says. No, you can't interpret it like that. Let us show you why you can't interpret it like that. It's like we have to explain everything to 5-year-olds. And then we have to go through the Bible and expose all their lies. And we have to do this for the rest of our lives because they just can't stop. Can't stop lying.
This would be corrected if they would just take a few hours and read the passages they keep saying,
or
says Mary's 12, or that says Rebecca is 3. If they would just take a few minutes and read these passages, that would solve all these problems. They can't even do that. So they keep repeating this lie because they can't be bothered to read the Bible they claim to have rejected because of evidence or whatever.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and watch, because it's a I don't know if this was a TikTok video or what that he posted on Twitter, but he posted.
It's a TikTok video. I think he cut out of some larger video, but I do not have I do not want to get a massive headache going through all the problems in that one.
Yeah, so this is the video that he just posted on Twitter. We'll go ahead and so it's like under a minute. We'll go ahead and watch it. We'll go ahead and watch it, and then we'll break down some of the problems. All right, here we go.
According to the church, Mary herself was between 13 and 14 years old when she had Jesus.
According to the church, the church, I don't even know why I'm stopping this. I wanted to watch.
She gave birth to him. How old was Joseph according to the church? He was in his 90s.
Oh, says it right there on the screen, IP. Says that Joseph was in the 90s. All right.
Why are you hypocritical when you talk about Islam?
We're hypocritical because Joseph was in his 90s.
When the age difference is even greater than the age difference of...
Notice what the point... I don't even know why I'm stopping this. I wanted to just watch it. I can't listen to this guy for literally 2 seconds without...
Well, it's stupid. Like, let's just talk about the Mary thing for a second. Okay, that comes from the proto-evangelium of James.
Wait. Yeah, we'll wait till... We're going to pull some of this stuff up.
All right, fine.
Okay. Don't let me... I'll probably interrupt him after a few more seconds, but okay, let's just... Yeah, I wanted to get it through because people always say, you're just pausing, you're not letting him get his point across. All right.
Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Aisha.
So that last point he was saying was the age difference. If Joseph is in his 90s, which he claims is what Christianity teaches, that Joseph was in his 90s and that Mary was between 12 and 14, the age difference was even bigger than between Muhammad and Aisha, and therefore we're hypocrites if we call out Muhammad. So
the Jewish tradition, the age of marriage, and this comes from Genesis.
This comes
21
from Genesis.
and 22.
This comes from Genesis 21 and 22, ladies and gentlemen. And you know it because he's got a big old Bible there. Unfortunately, he's not going to show us. They never do. They say it. Yes, it's in Genesis. And you're supposed to say 22 and 24. But you don't want to say that because then people might read 24. But all right, well, let's go.
Where Isaac marries Rebekah at the age of 40 years old. But how old was Rebekah? Well, according here to Genesis 21 and 22, we find that Rebekah was only 3 years old.
Hey, IP, you've read Genesis a bunch of times. I've read Genesis a bunch of times. Do you ever remember seeing there? And I've noticed he says 21 and 22. I don't recall it being in Genesis 21 and 22 at all.
Well, it's in there. It's in the LDV version, the lying Dawah version.
Yeah,
you just got to get that version. It's right in there.
Yeah, they need their own. They need their own Bible now, ladies and gentlemen. All right, here he is. Here's his last little bit here.
And this is confirmed by all rabbinic scholars. This is
all rabbinic scholars agree. Hey, I mean, how many? Look at his face. How many lies are in this one video? All right, let's see.
Why the law in Judaism for marriage begins at 3 years old.
This dude is nuts. The standard position is 12 as a minimum. All right, IP. So let's. We went through all of it, guys. You get it. You get what we're dealing with here. And this is like every old Dawah guy, every new Dawah guy. They all develop this sudden urge to defend child marriage, And they immediately
lose all their brain cells doing it because they always bring up the dumbest and the worst arguments possible in order to defend child marriage. So they become evil and dumb at the same time. I don't understand.
Yeah, think about how many problems there are with the Muslim Cowboy. One, he has everything he's saying about puberty is factually false from a medical and biological perspective. What he's saying is wrong. It's wrong. His definition of what a woman is wrong. This isn't a matter of opinion. Him saying that a girl who reaches puberty, who has any sign of puberty, is therefore a fully grown woman, that's idiotic and insane and evil. And so there's that. Then there's him not understanding what his own sources say about Muhammad and Aisha, that she hadn't reached puberty and that Islam allows you to have sex before puberty. And finally, he defends it by attacking the Bible and apparently lying, unless he's illiterate and can't read the book that he holds up. So multiple problems.
To be fair, he did not say with Mary it's according to the Bible that she was between 12 and 14. He says according to the church. Yeah. And I'm guessing he's going off the Catholic tradition, which shows you he's not even making a good comparison. Because, yes, in the Catholic Church tradition, Mary conceives between 12 and 14. However, Joseph is not marrying her because he's another Muhammad who wants to bang her. He's this old man who's given to her as like to protect her so she can be a perpetual virgin. If you're going to attack the Catholic Church, don't just take out the teachings you like, because they teach Mary was a perpetual virgin. So she never had sex with Joseph. Joseph was more like a protector for her so that she could be this blessed gift from God and that Jesus could come through her, and then she remains a virgin until she dies. So if you're going to attack the Catholic doctrines, at least get them right. This is not comparable to Muhammad, who sexually abused Aisha. Okay, that didn't happen with Joseph and Mary in the Catholic tradition.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, are you saying that? So he's using this whataboutism. You're condemning Muhammad for having sex with a 9-year-old girl. Well, in the Catholic tradition, Mary was pretty young. She wasn't 9. She's between 12 and 14, according to many Catholics. And therefore, it's the same thing, leaving out the fact that there was no sex involved, according to the Catholic tradition. He's an old man who's assigned to take care of her. And so this is absolutely amazing that Muhammad having sex with a 9-year-old girl is supposedly justified by Joseph never having sex with Mary. Wow. Welcome to Dawah, folks. Let's go through a couple of super chats real quick, and then we will take a closer look at this video and his claims, because he's actually putting things up on the screen, hoping he either can't read them or he hasn't read them, or he can't read. He just can't read. But if he has read them and he can read, we can say indisputably, as everyone is about to see, that this man is a compulsive liar. So, guys, when he's talking about puberty and when he's talking about Aisha and Muhammad and so on, there's a possibility that he's completely ignorant and doesn't know, right? So that would be a best case scenario. He's ignorant and doesn't know anything he's talking about. That would be the generous interpretation, because the alternative is he does know better and he's lying. And we're about to see, if this man can read, then he is not in the ignorant category. I mean, he might be ignorant about things, but here he would be deliberately lying to the faces of his followers. And the most disturbing thing in all of this would be that his followers don't even care that he's lying to defend child marriage. They would celebrate it. Yes, lying is good as long as you're defending child marriage with it. And that would be some sick, evil stuff. All right, Sandman. David Wood, ready for the Ramadan Bombathon next month? No one is ever ready for the Ramadan Bombathon. And you know what's actually messed up is, so, for years there was the Ramadan Bombathon where attacks would actually spike during Ramadan, and people in the West are going, this is confusing. These people can't be Muslims because this is their holy month, not realizing that even Muhammad would fight during Ramadan and so on. And this is actually a heightened time, because your good deeds are multiplied during Ramadan. So if you die while slaughtering people in the name of Allah, then it's multiplied during Ramadan. So it sucks for years when ISIS was doing things, that you had serious, massive spikes because they're calling for the attacks, and things died down after ISIS was defeated. But you might, after the October 7th things, you might get a more violent Ramadan this year.
God, yeah. God.
Yeehaw, folks. Muslims should stop following Momo, the PDF file prophet, PDF prophet. Also, I made an epic song called Stay Away from Islam featuring Sajid Lippam. Oh, nice. Yeah, send that to AP. Maybe we'll have that. He can have that as his outro. 4 minutes late. How dare you? How dare you both? How are you both doing? I hope your Israel trip goes well, David. Yep, I think there's going to be a lot of videos. Jai Apologetics, exposing Dawah lies until Dawah dies. God bless, brothers. Yeah, that's IP. I noticed yesterday in response to the Muslim Cowboy, you said, without lies, Islam dies.
No, that was in response to someone else. That was another Muslim. The Thought Adventure podcast was. I pointed out that I was responding to Paul Williams on Trinity stuff, and I said, no, we don't believe in 3 gods. Here's a paper by Dr. Joshua Sijiwati. Well, the guys at Thought Adventure podcast shared a clip of Dr. Sijiwati saying that the Trinity means there's 3 gods. I went and found the original interview, and they cut out the part where Sijuwati says, well, it's 3 in a predicative sense, but in a nominal sense, no, because there's only one fundamental thing. So it was deceptively edited to make it sound like he was saying there are 3 gods. And so, yeah, once again, they lie. They share around clips. Now, he's claiming he didn't know it was edited, but he's still sharing it around. And a bunch of Muslims are sending it to me saying, ha, you've been exposed. Not realizing that, no, Sijuwati is saying, look, it depends on what you mean. If you define God in the terms of like the way we define person, you could say there are 3 because you've defined it differently than the way God is defined in the Islamic tradition. So they've deceptively edited that clip to make it sound like Dr. Sijuwati was saying that, oh, yes, Trinity means tritheism, 3 gods. It was quite ridiculous. And of course, the moment I pointed out, they doubled down on their nonsense.
So just to be clear here, whoever edited that clip obviously knew he was being deceptive, right? Whoever was editing that clip is actually removing the part which contradicts what they're claiming. And so they actually cut out a part of what the man is saying to deceptively completely misrepresent what he's saying. And then they all share it. And so you have Dawah guys deceptively editing clips and then giving them to the Muslim community, who then all share the deceptively edited clip. And you could say, maybe they're just ignorant and don't know that they're being deceptive. But the person who made it obviously does. And guess what? This is exactly what we're dealing with right now. That a Dawah guy will make something up and then spread it, and it will spread. It will permeate the entire Dawah community, and they'll all start repeating it. And it never crosses anyone's mind to be honest or accurate with the text.
Well, none of them ever checked. Any of them could have just gone and listened to the full interview and would have seen what Sijuwati says in context. Same thing with this Muslim cowboy. Just read Genesis 21 and 22, the very thing you claim you're citing. You claim you're citing Catholic tradition. Do you not know Mary was a perpetual virgin in the Catholic tradition? Like, they none of these guys bother to go check the source. And I can't tell you how many times on TikTok I've had to correct Christians. Like, I actually respond to Christians saying dumb stuff and say, stop doing this. Mm-hmm. Why do I not see that in the Muslim community? Why are they not correcting their own bad arguments?
Yeah, that's a problem is, you can, and this has just been going on for years. I mean, Nabil went through a 5-minute clip of Zakir Naik breaking down science to people and found 25 errors. It just doesn't bother the followers.
Wait,
you could, in other words, if you were a fan of Zakir Naik in that audience, and you'd actually studied biology and all kinds of things, and you're watching this and you knew, whoa, nope, that's wrong. No, he's clearly making up Sir Whitemeat. Wrong. It just wouldn't bother you. Hey, as long as he's tricking these people into believing the Quran, that's all that matters. And it's wild stuff. JT. Anyway, what I was pointing out with the you posting without lies, Islam dies is man, you go back just a couple years ago, you seem to be focusing just on dealing with some atheist objections and explaining various passages of the Bible that are misunderstood and explaining Christian doctrines. And all of a sudden, it's like a switch went off on you and you declare war on Dawah.
There's one reason. Don't go after children. They went after children. Now the gloves come off. Children stay out of this. And I've talked to atheists that I vehemently disagree with and dispute on, and we both are like, yeah, maybe we should put the sword down for a minute and protect children from these nut jobs. Like I'll throw insults around if you're going after children. You do not go after children.
Mm-hmm. And so now we know, and here's why I bring this up. You became significantly more aggressive towards Islam once you saw these Dawah guys defending child marriage. But guess what? That's not just you. That's lots of people around the world who will be significantly more concerned and more aggressive towards Islam once they find out that it supports child marriage and defends pedophilia. And so, and yet all the Dawah guys across the board are now defending child marriage, and they don't realize what they're doing. They're going to increase the hostility against Islam because of this.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. They're doing half the work for us.
Mm-hmm. Here's my jizya for my Christian overlords. Okay, cool. Podzing said, you guys should check out the Meet Your Second Wife game show SNL sketch.
I saw
Perfect for
that.
Momo. I saw that too. Pikachu and the Muslim Cowboy to go on. Yeah, so the joke of that sketch was these men go on to a game show called Meet Your Second Wife. They don't know what it's about. And somehow the hosts know the future, and they introduce the guys to their future second wives. And the guys' wives are all in the audience as well. And yeah, the first girl to come out is like a I don't know, like a 12-year-old girl, and that's the guy's second wife. And then so they carry that on for a while, and then the next guy's second wife comes out, and it's like a 4 or 5-year-old. And then the third guy's wife comes. I won't give away the ending, but yeah, everyone check that sketch out, and yes, you could definitely apply that to Muhammad. My Zabiba's trajectory says, hey guys, hope y'all are doing well. Would IP be willing to debate made by Jim Bob on theistic evolution? He is against evolution.
I don't know who that is. It depends on how big their audience is. I got a bunch of stuff I'm already planning for the year, so I'm pretty busy. I'm trying not to debate people that have such a small audience for my own audience sake now, but I consider it. It just depends on scheduling and setting everything up later on, right? I don't plan or agree to debates publicly.
Yeah. So contact him with more information about Jim Bob.
Yeah, I don't even know who this is. So
yeah, me neither. Never heard of him. So probably not a tremendously large following. Finally able to attend one of these lives. Hi, Nabila woman is when you know the thing. I think that's an imitation of Joe Biden. IP, will you be on the Lore Lodge channel again?
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah, that's why I couldn't do this live stream tomorrow, because I'll be on there. I've already have that scheduled.
D. Wood, I was discussing Islam with my 17-year-old son and the problems with it. He quoted the edited version of 532 to me. I nearly crashed the car. Best videos to debunk this for him. God bless you. I've made videos on that, and you could watch. I took down most of my stuff. You could probably find them on one of the archive sites. But my recent video of 3 Quran verses every Jew should know, I discussed a little there. But seriously, just having your son read Surah 5 verse 32 and Surah 5 verse 33 should be enough for him to realize how deceptive people are when they completely massacre that. So that's a passage where just reading the passage gives you a massively different understanding. So for anyone who doesn't know, 532, that's where Muslims quote in the West. According to the Quran, if anyone kills a man, it's as if he's killed all mankind. When if you actually read it, it says this was revealed to the children of Israel. It's a quotation from the Talmud, Mishnah Sanhedrin, and the next verse commands followers of Muhammad to slaughter all kinds of people for the vague crime of spreading mischief in the land. And so it's an actual. These passages are actually calling for a bloodbath, and people use it to show that Islam is all about peace. Uthman's relationship advice: I'm the Muslim cowboy serving Mo pedophile, looking for baby girls because that's what I need. I do what my prophet said. I can't get the beat right. Jizya stains, Jews behead, and what happens when kin and cousins breed. It's kind of a necessary show to look into some of the inbreeding statistics. Did you see that, IP, recently when someone told Joe Rogan about inbreeding in Muslim countries?
I've heard.
Yeah,
I've read about it. It's really bad.
Yeah, the levels of first cousin marriage and what this is doing to communities and increasing medical problems. And can't object because Muhammad did it.
Well, it's worse than that. I mean, this research I would find says you have a high rate of inbreeding, cousin marriages. That's a problem. You have higher rates of child marriage. You have also higher rates of infanticide in the Muslim world. And India as well, so the Hindu world as well, because boys are prized more than girls. And so that actually leads to an even ratio of more men than women. And when you have societies that have more men than women, a lot of the lower class men end up joining militia groups, terrorist type groups, and they cause chaos. You know, Muslims often say, oh, the terrorist attacks are always You think they're bad, but they're always committed against Muslims. So it's not that Islam is causing terrorism. Yes, it is, because practices like polygamy and infanticide lead to young, aggressive men joining terrorist groups, and then they attack the governments in the countries they are in. So polygamy and not having an even ratio of men to women leads to young men becoming more aggressive and joining groups because they have no outlet. So yeah, there's actually ways to show that.
And as far as one Muslim group attacking another Muslim group, people don't realize that's a command in Islam. Surah 9, verse 73, that Muhammad was ordered to wage jihad not only against unbelievers, but also against hypocrites. And so if you view that rival Muslim group as a bunch of hypocrites and they're following the wrong path, then you fight them.
Mm-hmm.
You wage jihad. Let's see. Hey, IP, go to Israel with David and AP and David.
Yeah, I'd love to, but they invited me 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, I can't go to Israel with a 2-week notice. You asked me in November, maybe.
Yeah. We'll catch you next time. Sheikh Asim admits there's no marital rape in Islam. Yeah.
Gross.
No such thing. Hey, Yeshua the King, find me that clip, because I had a clip from another Muslim scholar years ago, and it was taken down. I wonder why. It was taken down. They'll take stuff down once we start using it. Question for my favorite sheikhs. My wife caught me with my slave girl, and she called me impotent. Do I beat her or just give her a warning? Yeah,
that's horrible.
Yeah, going with the hadith, sounds like a beating. Justin says, attending your debates in Texas sent me on a journey to destroy Islam. These men's defenses will be their own downfall. Thank you both. I respect you. Yeah, and there are some people who wonder, like, why do you guys keep coming back on this issue? Guys, you can't let them win on this issue. You have to respond to everything they say and every defense they can give of child marriage and every explanation.
I have pledged that because Daniel Hikikachu did this, that he challenged me to debate, I'm going to be a thorn in his side anytime he brings up child marriage for the rest of his life. I am not going to just let that go because you don't mess with children, period, end of story. I will die on this hill.
And they don't realize what they're doing now. Muhammad Hijab, few years ago, did a poll, and he asked Muslims about when they have doubts about Islam. He asked, when you have doubts about Islam, what is causing those doubts? And he gave some different possibilities. The top problem for Muslims that caused them to doubt whether Islam is true was moral problems with Muhammad. So that was, he's aware of the polling data because he's the one who did the polling data. His own polling data show that when Muslims are doubting Islam, the main reason is because of moral problems with Muhammad. And all of a sudden they all start massively defending child marriage, which in their minds is probably, oh, we have to show them that this isn't wrong, so they won't start doubting over this. And instead they're just showing that we're right about Muhammad marrying a child, because for years their explanation was, no, never happened. That's made up by the kuffar. And they'll start defending it. And here we are. So guys, yes, I understand. As people like the Muslim Cowboy continue defending this, we're going to continue refuting their responses, because you can't lose on this. And as much as we want to use this as a problem for Islam and to expose Islam, there are actual children involved at the end of the day here. In other words, if this guy, if the Muslim Cowboys fans start, oh, you know what? He makes a good point. It is okay to bang little kids. Okay, then that increases the chances that little kids are getting banged. It increases the chances that Abdullah is going to send his 9-year-old daughter to the Muslim Cowboy as his 3rd or 4th wife, right?
I will work with any Muslim that wants to condemn child marriage. I have found very few that will, unfortunately. But if there are more out there that want to come forward and are not afraid of these nut jobs, please come forward and work with us to combat this nonsense.
Hope Bloom says, for reference, the Bible does explicitly prohibit child diddling, 1 Corinthians 7:36. Notice, if she passed the flower of her age. They say NIV butchers it.
It depends. There are different people there are different scholars that disagree on how to translate that verse. I did look into that, preparing for my debate. However, if you go to Ezekiel 16, that's a good place to go, because God compares the age of Jerusalem. Yeah, talks about he compares Jerusalem to his age to his wife, making lovemaking, and he says, I passed by you again. You had passed the age of maturing. So scholars like Robert Alter will look at it and go, Ezekiel 16 is saying that this hypothesized wife, Jerusalem, she grows to be a full woman. Her breasts become fully formed. So puberty is complete because her breasts have fully formed. Not started, fully formed. So a lot of scholars like Robert Alter say that she is actually past puberty. That would put her 18 or later, not 12, 9.
Yeah, definitely not 9. Definitely not 9. Hexata says, Mo, water is not made impure by anything. Followers. Wait, what?
Dead ass. Mo. Right, not even by that. I get it.
I don't. If it was up to me, he would join Kailula Downing. Don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Nikhil says, IP, what evidence would it take for you to change your mind on Islam? For me, it would be catching the Muslim cowboy walking with semen on his shirt. Also, how is it child rape if the parents consent?
I mean, it would take a lot because if an angel shows up, I'm going to think it's going to be and tells me Islam is true. My first thought is going to be, well, you're a demon. I guess it would take literally God himself appearing before me because at the end of the day, there's a philosopher named Thomas Nagel who's an atheist. And in his book, Mind and Cosmos, he's being challenged by someone named Sharon Street, who says you can't hold to neo-Darwinianism in moral realism. And Nagel says, well, I guess I'm abandoning neo-Darwinianism because moral realism is so real and true, I cannot get rid of objective moral values and duties. That's the same for me. I know child marriage is wrong and evil. I know sex slavery is wrong and evil. You're going to tell me that Islam came from the source of what is good? No, it's going to take literally the source of good telling me that because my intuitions on this are just going to be so strong, as I agree with like Nagel on that.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Chris at Speaker's Corner. By the way, guys, follow Chris at Speaker's Corner. He puts out some really good videos. But Chris at Speaker's Corner says, guys like the Muslim Cowboy are a blessing to Christians evangelizing to Muslims. People would rather have freedom in Christ than potentially be on some sort of FBI watch list. Yeah, and guys, these guys are doing us a tremendous favor. When we try to expose Islam, we spend years telling Muslims that something is in the Quran, and they think, no, because I went to my Dawah guy, and he says, you guys are liars not to trust you. And so when the Dawah guys finally admit the stuff, one, they're admitting that the problem is in Islam, and they're informing their followers that, yeah, this issue is in there. But two, they're indirectly acknowledging that what we were saying for years is correct and that they were the ones who were lying about it. And so, yes, these guys are doing some really great work for us in taking down their prophet.
By the way, David, we had a question. That debate you had with Nadir Ahmed, where he midway through the debate is like, "Wait, let me check the Quran," and then he tries to change the debate. That's real. That wasn't staged, right? It looks so staged.
No, in Nadir's defense, he was not. People took the clip and they made it look because he just did it. The joke didn't land. The joke for him was going to be, oh, David's wrong about this. Oh, let me up the Quran. Oh, it is in there. Oh my goodness. Oh, I know. And so it's going to be, then he's acting like he's figuring out the explanation and so on. The joke didn't land and people didn't get it. They thought, so in other words, it's not people deceptively editing it. People just didn't realize that he's joking because he sounded like he's serious. And so, yeah, that
makes more sense.
Yeah, that was a joke not landing.
That makes it even funnier.
Yeah, Hector says, yeah, seeing the Muslim Cowboy in the mud. Yeah, and I was in another debate with Nadir, and he's like, and there's a clip about me circulating that says I didn't know what that means, but that was deceptively edited. And it's like, dude, you're the one who said it like that. Hector says, seeing the Muslim Cowboy in the mosque covered in semen would only strengthen my iman. Why
do it now.
Yeah, why do you run around saying I'll do anything Muhammad and get mad when you get these challenges? Genesis 22. Oops, let me pull this up, and then we'll jump back into the video here in a minute. Genesis 22, 20 to 23. By the logic that Rebekah was born when Abraham told, so was her father Bethuel. So Rebekah was miraculously fathered by a 0-year-old and born after 0 days gestation. Seems likely. Yeah, and we're actually going to look at this passage because our good friend, the Muslim Cowboy, is that's people don't understand that this is all. It's like a complete idiot read Genesis 22 and didn't think about what he's reading and jumped to a stupid conclusion, and he's too stupid to have it explained to him. That's the situation where we're dealing with how this passage is used. But yeah, we'll take a look at it. Matter of fact, let's get back to the video here. We still got some more super chats, but let's go ahead and jump back into the video. All right, so let's see where he goes. Let's see where he goes with this. Everyone get ready to have your minds blown. See what his first point is. Let me get this out of the way. All right.
According to the church, Mary herself was
He puts a source up on the screen. According to the church, Mary herself
between 13 and 14 years old when she had Jesus, when she gave birth to him. How old?
Okay. You catch that?
Uh-huh.
And let me find this.
Puts a source up there.
All right. And the source is not a source that we're all required to believe or something like that. It's a website. He links to a website. So he doesn't, not a Bible verse, not some authoritative, nothing. He links to a website. So here we go. And so here's the site that he uses that. So we've got Tax Slayer because it's tax season. We've got exclusive Super Bowl interview ads all over. But this is crosswalk.com. Crosswalk.com by Whitney Hopler. Whitney Hopler. Contributing writer Whitney Hopler.
Wasn't that one of Jesus' disciples? Isn't she pretty old?
Yeah, St. Whitney. Yep, indeed. So here we have the Virgin Mary, who served as the mother of Jesus on earth, is known for her spiritual maturity. She inspires many people through her example. Guys, keep in mind, this is what he linked to. This is what he put on the screen as his source. When we say, hey, we're not aware of any reliable source on the age of Mary. What's your source? He went to this website. The Virgin Mary, who served as the mother of Jesus on earth, is known for her spiritual maturity. She inspires many people through her example of faith and trust in God. In art, Mother Mary is often portrayed as a fully grown woman. But how old was Mary when she had Jesus really? Mary was actually a young teen when she gave birth to Jesus, historians believe. Just how young? Historians agree that Mary was most likely between 12 and 14 years old when Jesus was born. So there you have it. There's a website by Whitney Hopler. Whitney Hopler says, historian, but notice it's not just Whitney Hopler saying this. It's Whitney Hopler saying, historians agree that Mary was most likely between 12 and 14 years old when Jesus was born. That's interesting because the most common thing I've seen IP is historians saying we don't know how old she was. And what I have seen is I'll frequently see things like she could have been as young as 12 to 14 because that's when rabbis would allow someone to get married, right? Before, if you were under 12, the rabbi was not going to do it. And so they say, okay, well, here's when she could have been married. And it looks like Whitney here is concluding that therefore they're saying she was between 12 and 14. But this is so far our only source saying that Mary was 13 or 14 when she had Jesus, according to the Muslim Cowboy. All right, so we good with that? If so, do you have any any thoughts on this here?
Yeah, pull my screen up.
Let's see. All right.
So this is a paper written by Amram Trooper, a scholar that actually looked at this. And on the basis of rabbinic sources and ancient documents, scholars suggest the average age of first marriage in Palestine in the Western Dephoria was in the late teens or early 20s for women and around 30 for men. And
wait. Go back. The average age of first marriage, late teens or early 20s for women and around 30 for men. Now, this is didn't Daniel make it sound like basically before the 20th century, everyone's it's like 9-year-old boys marrying 5-year-old girls left and right?
Yeah, he sure did, because he has not studied anything.
Okay, so it's like they decide what they want to be true in order to justify their fake prophet, and then they just say it, and it never crosses their mind to actually do the research that you managed to do for them, fortunately.
Yeah, if you go down to the footnote, you can see her sources here. And she also notes Tim Parkin argues, however, that this age differential would probably not have translated into a significant difference in fertility due to the likelihood that the experience of childbirth for a mother in her early teens would lead to, I forget how to say this word.
Deleterious,
that's it, thank you, effects that would eventually decrease her fecundity. So right there we see that ancient people, Tim Parkin is basically suggesting ancient people were not stupid. They knew a 12-year-old was not equipped yet to have a child. You got to wait for her hips to widen and for her to finish puberty before they're ready to have children and then raise them. So we see this in the ancient world. They were pushing it closer to late teens because of this. And again, other research shows that in this period, girls were not even hitting their period till around the age of 16. So we wouldn't see 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds being married off in masses.
Yeah, which, by the way, is Aisha was in her mid-teens. According to Muslim sources, Aisha was in her mid-teens. She didn't reach puberty at 9. She was in her mid-teens when she reached puberty. And so she was actually prepubescent. All right, is that all you wanted on the screens?
Let me put my other source, because there's actually another interesting one here I got. This is Michael Satlow's book.
It's gone dark.
Oh no, what'd you do?
Okay.
Well, there it is. All right, I got it. Michael Satlow's book is on screen. All right, so with this one, again, he says it could have been Palestine, Western Euphoria, could have been mid or late teens. So same kind of roughly thing. Girls were not really marrying until basically they had started the age of monarchy, which would be past 16. He notes that when Muslims go to the Talmud to cite these ages, he says the rabbis, we have to assume, knew that their ideal ages for marriages did not correspond to what they typically saw around them. So sometimes you'll see rabbis talking about girls, the ideal age for a girl to marry being 12. That's not a reflection of what was actually happening in Jewish culture. They were marrying later. So he actually points out that there's a huge difference when a rabbi says an ideal age versus what was actually happening. And he lists some examples here. Like he cites, for example, this one text, I believe it was Philo, a 20-year-old Jewish woman from Egypt who died while apparently betrothed is described as ripe for marriage like a rose in a garden. So we see this idea that in the Jewish text, he notes that girls had to wait until they were older, closer to the age of 20 in their late teens. And they also he notes they had to actually agree to it. So you couldn't marry a girl off against her will. She had to be mature enough, and she had to want it. So Rabbi Eliezer said it is forbidden for a man to betroth his daughter while she is a minor until she marries and says, I want so-and-so. So right there we see you cannot marry a minor, and she has to agree to it. So they have to be able to consent, and they have to be of age.
Interesting. All right. So, is the Muslim cowboy... So, what? So, follow the reasoning here, ladies and gentlemen. What you do have is there's no reliable source on the age of Mary, right? There's no reliable source. But you have had people point out that you could be married between the age of 12 and 14. And so the assumption is, well, if you could be married then, it's not like they're going to wait a long time. And therefore, some would think, well, Mary was probably married in one of those ages. And so you end up with people spreading it around. Hey, it says you can marry between the age of 12 and 14. Therefore, most likely Mary was born during that time. And you're pointing out, no, people have actually done the research on available documents and concluded that even though you were allowed legally to do it, when were people actually getting married? Somewhere around the age of 20 is when they were actually getting married. So in reality, so here's what was allowed and here's what was actually the case. And so if you were trying to assess, hey, how old was Mary? Yes, you could have taken into account, well, you were allowed to get married at 12. And so that would be kind of minimum age if this was going to be allowed during that time, minimum of 12. But since you have nothing else to go on, you'd have to say, okay, we'll just go with the average age of first marriage, and go with that. And you're pointing out that would be around 20, not around 12.
Yeah, late teens, you could say 18, I'd say. But yeah, some women were waiting till 20, though. So that is for sure. And even the Catholic Encyclopedia that has a entry on St. Joseph says the sources on his age and Mary's age, these come from late, unreliable Apocrypha texts. So it directly says that even the early Christian sources that try to calculate Mary and Joseph's age, they're not reliable. So we got to go on what the current scholarship shows. And if you look at what Michael Satlow and Amram Trooper have argued, you're getting late teens to early 20s, not this 12-year-old child bride who, again, would still have been a perpetual virgin if the Catholic tradition is right.
So can we say that historians agree that Mary was between 12 and 14? Can we say we'd have to see a source from that, because when we actually look it up, what we actually see from scholars is, yes, it's possible to marry between 12 and 14. But those who have actually done the research say, no, the average age was older. And so you basically have nothing to go on. That yet she could have been married at this time. It would be allowed. You have you have zero reason to think it was right when she was 12 or right when she was 13 or even right when she was 14, because it was common for even women in their first marriage to wait to 18 or 20.
And that's in Palestine. In Babylon, both Trooper and Satlow say it was younger. So you could have girls marrying 12, 14 more on average. But again, a lot of the times the Muslim apologists will go to the Babylonian Talmud to support this. They don't realize there was actually a different practice happening in Palestine.
Mm-hmm. So what we have is him saying, nope, Mary was 13 or 14 when she had Jesus. There's no source on this. The only source he gives is a website which is saying something false, that historians agree on this, and they don't. They most certainly do not. That is false. It is false that historians agree on this. So, and for Muslims who won't get this point, Muslims, if I said something about Islam and I could not show it to you from the Quran, I couldn't show it to you from the Hadith, I couldn't show it to you in the tafsir, I couldn't show it to you in the seerah, and all I had to go on was a website from someone no one has ever heard of. And I said, this website says it. Therefore, that's what Islam teaches. And I can't show you, again, from the Quran, from the Hadith, from the seerah, from the tafsir, I can't show you it in any authentic Muslim source. It's just someone makes a claim on a website without offering the slightest bit of evidence for it. Would you accept that as authoritative Islamic teaching? The answer is no. Not one of you would ever do that, would ever accept that as authoritative teaching if I can't show it to you from an actual authentic source. Why do people like the Muslim Cowboy instantly turn around and say, nope, I found it on a website. Who cares if it contradicts everything we actually know? It's on a website. Yeah, Muslim Cowboy, I can find all kinds of things on websites. I
mean, I once saw him. I caught a Muslim on TikTok trying to use the website Answering Islam to argue for Islam. That was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So websites. This is, guys, and I want everyone to compare this, because in his mind, if the Muslim Cowboys, well, one, we know he's watching this. Muslim Cowboy's definitely watching this right now, and two, some of his fans are watching this, and they don't understand. But I saw it on a website. Why? Because I was searching for it. I was looking for something to confirm what I said, so I went to a website, and that's my evidence. Notice, did not cite the Bible, did not quote anything authoritative. Went to a website because he knows his followers are too dumb to know the difference. I want to compare that with what we do. When we say Aisha was 9, are we saying we saw this on a website somewhere and it's not something that actually appears in any authentic Muslim source, but we saw it on a website and therefore we're just going to say it over and over again? No, what do? We go, oh, look, Sahih al-Bukhari, chapter, giving one's young children in marriage is permissible. Why? By virtue, what? Young children? No, I didn't say child marriage. Yoo-hoo, says it right there. Young children. By virtue of the statement of Allah, and for those who have no monthly courses, no monthly period, i.e. they are still immature, Surah 65:4, And the iddah, that's the waiting period after you divorce a girl, for the girl before puberty, so this is divorcing a girl you've had sex with before she's ever reached puberty, is 3 months. And then as an example of this, 5133 narrated Aisha that the Prophet wrote the marriage contract with her when she was 6 years old and consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old, and then she remained with him for 9 years old, i.e. till his death. And some Muslims, oh, maybe that's the only one. No, what about this? 5134, 6 years old, 9 years old. Oh, what about this? Also Sahih al-Bukhari, 6 years old, 9 years old. Oh, what's this? Bukhari. Hey, look at here. Narrated Aisha, I used to play with dolls in the presence of the Prophet, and my girlfriends also used to play with me. When Allah's messenger used to enter my dwelling place, they would hide themselves, but the Prophet would call them to join and play with me. The playing with dolls and similar images is forbidden, but it was allowed for Aisha at that time as she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty. Are we just saying, are we just getting this from a website, ladies and gentlemen? Are we just saying, oh, I saw this on a website, so I'll just say it. No. Sahih Muslim, Prophet married me when I was 6 years old, consummated the marriage with me when I was 9 years old. How old was she? Oh, look here, 9 years old. Oh, look here. Also, Sahih Muslim, 9 years old. Aisha, in Sunan Abu Dawud 2121, the Messenger of Allah, this is Aisha speaking. The Messenger of Allah married me when I was a girl of 7 years. Suleiman, one of the translators said, or 6. And he consummated the marriage when I was a girl of 9. Sunan An-Nasai, the Messenger of Allah married me when I was 6 and consummated the marriage with me when I was 9. And I used to play with dolls. It's relevant to be playing with dolls. Why? Because you could only do that if you hadn't reached puberty. History about Tabari. How old was she? Look at the end. On the day he consummated the marriage with her, she was 9 years old. What happens when we make a claim? When we make a claim about Aisha, we give you source after source after source after source that you Muslims treat as your most reliable sources of information on the life of Muhammad. And we show that this is all over the place. And we challenge you, show us something that says otherwise. Show us a different date. Hey, by the way, IP, you remember in my debate with Kenny Bomer when he was saying, and there are the other sources, and I said, give us one. And I said, give us one. You go, oh, well, it's in there. I can give us one. Give us one quotation. One quotation. I said, I just gave you like over 20 saying she was 9. Can you give me one? Oh, no, he couldn't give one. He couldn't give one source to give a different date.
Listen, just because you got all the Muslim sources on your side, David, that's not fair because he had Gary Wills.
Oh, yeah.
He's
like, it's in these books, and it's all these people trying to combat Islamophobia. And I'm saying one source from the actual Muslim sources. Couldn't give one. So guys, notice the difference. When we say Aisha was 9, what are we basing that on? We're basing it on repeated over and over again, like a beating drum, claims in your most trusted sources on the life of Muhammad. When you say Mary was 13 or Mary was 14, where are you getting that from? A website, because you don't actually have a source. There's no reliable source on the age of Mary.
If they actually look, they'll find apocrypha texts, which the Catholic Encyclopedia says are unreliable. So even scholars today, Christian scholars, will say these are not reliable accounts on the actual age of Mary when Jesus was born. And
as you pointed out earlier, those sources are attempting to explain why Mary never had sex.
Yes.
So there's nothing to do with sex there. There's no sex taking place. In those sources that say that Mary was young and Joseph was old, those sources are saying that Joseph was just taking care of her as someone would take care of a daughter, and that he wasn't interested in sex. And so that's it. That's the reason. And so guys, notice, and in addition to all that, suppose hypothetically that Joseph had married Mary when she was like 5 and consummated the marriage at 5. The Muslim Cowboy seems to think that we would therefore go, oh, well, if Joseph did it, then it must be good. And it must be the rule today. And it's okay for everyone to go around banging 5-year-olds because Joseph did it. No, we would say Joseph was wrong. If he had done it, we would say Joseph was wrong. Guys, let's be clear. Joseph is not our pattern of conduct in Christianity. Joseph is not an authoritative source of Christian doctrine or practice. If Joseph had, if we found some sacred document, some sacred first century document that had been lost for years, and it turns out that Joseph was an axe murderer, doesn't affect Christianity.
Doesn't at all.
Yeah. So what? He's the guy who married. He's the guy who married Mary. Wow. So notice the multiple levels of stupid here. One, he's treating if Joseph did it, then you can't criticize Muhammad did it. No, even if Joseph did it, we could still criticize Joseph and Muhammad for doing it. Where are you getting this rule that Joseph is sinless in Christianity? We don't have that.
And
we don't have.
I mean, when King David, they bring up King David, Solomon, Abraham. Look, Muslims have this weird idea that because they think prophets have to have like this special privilege from God where they can't commit major sins, therefore we Christians also have to have it. They take their own Muslim principles and then they use it to attack us, which shows you they're not even trying to think. Muslims, we don't have the same thing you have in your religion. We don't think the prophets were perfect. We have Romans 3:23. Read it. The only perfect person in the Bible is Jesus. Not Abraham, not Isaac, not King David, King Solomon, Joseph, anyone, not even Paul. Okay? None of them are perfect. So bringing up their sins does not make us go, well, I guess Muhammad's not that bad. No, it's also kind of funny, David, because they are constantly comparing Muhammad to the times in the Bible when the prophets did horrible things. What does that tell us about Muhammad if that's what they have to constantly do?
Yeah, and as you just pointed out, we join in the condemnation. We don't regard them as perfect, but it's weird because they're not even supposed to view prophets as perfect. Jesus is the only one who's sinless in the Muslim sources. Well, Jesus and Mary, interestingly, are the only sinless ones in the Muslim sources. But Muhammad is told repeatedly that he has to repent of his sins. But what they'll say is, yeah, he did sin. And he was wrong for that. But all these other things have Allah's stamp of approval, things like child marriage, because Allah actually is the one who convinced Muhammad to have sex with this little girl. And so it's just this, anyway, really, really weird situation. But I mean, think about this. So they say, hey, you can't criticize Muhammad because of what Joseph did. No, if Joseph had sex with a prepubescent girl, we would say Joseph was wrong. We could give some leeway and say maybe he didn't know any better or something like that. But we would say that he was wrong, just as we say that Muhammad was wrong. So there's that, and then there's the claim that that this actually happened. That's false. You have no actual evidence that this is the case. And suppose somehow this is all supposed to compare with Muhammad having sex with a 9-year-old girl. So notice that's the second point. Oh, she was 13 or 14. Wait, so several years older than 9, right? So significantly older than 9. And he puts a source up on the screen. Historians say she was 12 to 14. No, historians say you were allowed to get married at 12 to 14. What does that mean? It means that Muhammad wouldn't even have been allowed to marry Aisha when she was that young. Wouldn't have been allowed. So even if we were to grant, which we wouldn't because there's no reliable source, but even if we said, you know what, this website says that she was 12 to 14, and by golly, we're just going to believe anything this website says without any source, without any documentary evidence at all. We're just going to believe whatever this site says. Okay, so she would be several years older than Aisha was when Muhammad was having sex with her, and significantly older than what people like Daniel Hakikachu and the Muslim Cowboy say is allowed, because they think it's okay to have sex with a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old. As long as there are signs of puberty. And so they're comparing a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old to a 13 or 14-year-old. Guys, there's an extra 1 on there. You're in double digits. There's a big difference between single digits and double digits. So even if we granted whatever we read on any Christian site is authoritative doctrine for Christians, even if we did grant that, hey, she would be in double digits, worst case scenario. Mary was in double digits as opposed to Aisha, who was in single digits. And then, so we can point all of that out. We can point all of that out. So again, Joseph is not the same. Joseph in Christianity is not the same thing as Muhammad in Islam. He's not a pattern of conduct. If he did something, we would call him a sinner. 2, even if we go with the website that you have no real source for, even if we go with the website, she was 13 or 14, that's double digits. That's significantly older than Aisha. And 3, we have no reason to think that that's actually true. We have no reason to think that she was actually 13 or 14. None. If we just went with the average age of marriage back then, average age of first marriage, she would have been somewhere around 18 or 20. So, you're muted, dude.
Yeah, and most people were not even pedophiles like Muhammad. They were not marrying 9-year-olds left and right. That was not normal. Not normal by a long shot.
Definitely not normal. All right, let's go back to the Muslim Cowboy so he can enlighten us further.
Oh boy, this is my favorite part of the video.
According to the church, Mary herself.
I'm gonna replay that just so people can see how ridiculous it is now that we've actually gone through it.
According to the church, Mary herself was between 13 and 14 years old when she had Jesus.
According to the church. Weird. I've never heard that from the church. Why couldn't he just say, according to this website I found when I was looking for justification, I found this.
She gave birth to him. How old was Joseph according to the church? He was in his 90s.
Uh-oh. Shouldn't have put the source on the screen. Hey, Muslim Cowboy. Shouldn't have put the source up on the screen, because when you put the source up on the screen, you allow us the ability to go to the source and expose you, sir, as a great big liar. Isn't that fun?
Oh yeah.
Should we go ahead and see what the source actually says that he? And again, what is this? It's another website, ladies and gentlemen. It's another website.
Authoritative website authored by Jesus himself, probably.
Yeah. What do we quote, guys? What do we quote? What do we quote when we say something about Muhammad? When we say something about Aisha, we just say, "Oh, I saw it on a website." Yee-hoo! No, we quote your sources. Why isn't he quoting our? Why isn't he quoting our sources? Why is he going to websites? Because he doesn't have a source for anything he's saying here except websites. That's his level of research in Dawah. But IP. All right, guys, everyone see this up here? You can see part of the quotation. And so I was actually able to track down the source here. So you see there, and as old as 36 to 42, he focuses on that 90s part. He focuses on the 90s part. See right there, he says 90s, and then he puts it on the screen so that people won't actually look at the words on the page that he is cropping. And they'll just assume that he's telling the truth. Very interesting methodology. Now let's go to this actual article here. This is the article. So this one is by Daniel Isaiah Joseph. Now let's go ahead and read this real quick. Joseph and Mary's relationship, including their betrothal and marriage, is one of the most iconic in the Bible. Mary is young, devout. Oh, see, she's young. Devout and contemplative. Joseph is humble, obedient, and protective. Together, they were the earthly parents of Jesus. Bible readers have a lot of questions about the holy couple. One of them concerns how old Joseph was when they married. And here's the part. Watch this. Joseph may have been as young as 18 to 20. And as old as 36 to 42 when he married Mary. Since the Bible doesn't mention how old he was, it may be possible to use specific historical and cultural factors to estimate an age range. Also, some unsupported traditions imply that Joseph was in his 80s or 90s. This was his source that he put on the screen to say,
does he read?
It seems like a problem, doesn't it? So guys, what's this say? He put this on the screen where people can see 90s, and he emphasized 90s. He emphasized 90s. And he said, that's what this source is saying, according to the church. What does even the article that he went to say? What does even the article that he went to say? Joseph may have been as young as 18 to 20 and as old as 36 to 42 when he married Mary. Since the Bible doesn't mention how old he was, it may be possible to use specific historical details and cultural factors to estimate an age range. Also, some unsupported traditions imply that Joseph was in his 80s or 90s. Unsupported traditions imply. They're unsupported traditions according to this. And he states it as a fact that according to the church, Joseph was in his 90s. So going with what it actually says, IP, this is hilarious. going with what his source. He cited this as his source. He can't give an actual authoritative source. This guy gets all his information from websites. Why does he go to these websites? Because he searches through websites to find what he's looking for. To say something that, oh, now I can use this. Yeehaw! Right? What does this source actually say? So if you go with these unsupported traditions and you factor that into the age range, Joseph was somewhere between 18 and his 90s. IP.
Got him.
Based on the information available to us, Joseph was somewhere between 18 and his 90s. Somewhere in that age range. Can you imagine if you're trying to give a description to police and they're trying to track a dude down? Hey, so you say you were robbed by someone. Can you give a description? Well, how old was he? Somewhere between 18 and his 90s, officer. Somewhere between his... Oh, okay. So you're saying he's definitely in his 90s. We can all be thankful that this dude's not a Texas Ranger.
Oh, my goodness. Can he even read? Like, this is the same thing Daniel Hakikichu did recently, where he argued that 3,000 IDF soldiers were killed. And I had to do a video saying, if you read the text that you're citing, Daniel, it says 3,000 Hamas fighters have died. It's amazing how many of these Dawah guys do not even read the sources they put on the screen in their own videos.
Indeed. And so let's go back to that. We'll watch that part again.
According to the church, Mary herself was between 13 and 14 years old when she had Jesus.
Guys, is that true? Is it true that according to the church, Mary was between 13 and 14? No. It's according to a website which falsely says this is something that historians agree on. Historians, what you see from historians is that's when you could have been married. To say that all historians agree that that's how old Mary was is false. So he goes to a website and cites the website as the church. Here's a website saying it. Therefore, this is the position of the church in general. Liar, 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 liar. But he doesn't stop there.
He gave birth to him. How old was Joseph according to the church? He was in his 90s.
What does that source? We went to the actual source. Does this source say that Joseph was in his 90s? No. It says it's even on the screen. Look at that. Unsupported traditions imply that Joseph was in his 80s or 90s. This article, so he can't even find an article to agree with him. He can't even find an article that agrees with him on this point. So he has to find an article that says Joseph was somewhere between 18 and 42. So he could have been as young as 18 to 20 and as old as 36 to 42. It's right there on the screen. And then it goes on to say, well, some unsupported traditions imply that Joseph was in his 80s or 90s. And then Muslim Cowboy says this is what is accepted in Christianity. Joseph was in his 90s. He can't even find an article to say that. He can't find an article. The guy who does all his research Googling articles can't find one that agrees with him. So he finds one that at least mentions 90s as an unsupported tradition, and he states it as fact. Does this guy have one drop, I mean a drop of integrity anywhere in his body?
I just hope all the Muslims listening understand that I want to thank the Muslim Cowboy because he teaches Muslims how to research. It makes our job so much easier. Thank you. Thank you for all the hard work you do, Muslim Cowboy. Training Muslims, because when they get in arguments with our fans, they're going to look incredibly stupid. So thank you, Muslim Cowboy, for assuring that will happen.
Yeah, and guys, just to recap, if you're wondering, well, why are there these unsupported traditions? Okay, so what the Bible says is Mary is a virgin and had Jesus. And then the Bible talks about Mary and Joseph, and it mentions brothers and sisters of Jesus. Brothers and sisters of Jesus. So it's if you're reading that, you would probably get the idea that Mary and Joseph had other children after Jesus was born. So they had other kids. They had other kids. So that's how Jesus had. They would have all been his half sisters and half brothers. But that's the impression you would get. Okay, so she was a virgin when they had Jesus, but then there were other brothers. There were brothers and sisters. So what does that suggest? So what you find is later Catholic apologists who are defending Mary's perpetual virginity, they're being asked, well, why wouldn't a guy have sex with Mary and why wouldn't they have more children after Jesus? Why? What's the point? And so they have to try to explain it, and they come up with stories. But Joseph was a really, really old man who, treated her like a daughter, and there was no sex. Mm-hmm. And these things are made up. These things are made up. So notice even Catholics don't take those sources seriously, because even Catholics look at those, and according to, you pointed out, the Catholic Encyclopedia says these are not reliable sources. So Catholics don't treat them as reliable. No one. There's not one person on the planet who treats these late sources as reliable. And just so everyone knows, Catholics interpret the passages about. I have seen some say that the brothers and sisters refer to cousins and so on. It's more common to say that Joseph had children. That Joseph had children before he married Mary, and so these were Joseph's children from a previous marriage. But anyway, the point here is, where are you getting the idea that Joseph is in his 90s? Well, it says right here that there are unsupported traditions implying that. Can we trust those unsupported traditions? No one does. Christians don't. They don't at all. I've never met a Christian who trusts these traditions. And he's stating it as authoritative fact. Guys, again, compare this with what we do with Islam. If we did this, well, we saw it on a website, and the website says some unsupported traditions say that Muhammad did such and such, but these are completely weak, fabricated later hadiths and so on, and we use that as our evidence. Would any Muslim accept it? No, you'd call us liars. You'd call us liars and deceivers and say, see, this is what the kuffar do. They have to lie. What do you guys do when you go to the Bible? You lie. And why is, I don't know. I don't even know how. It's like, what's the point? It's like, what's the point of explaining lying to people who believe that lying is perfectly acceptable? It's weird.
Well, he's about to do a big lie. He's going to say that Genesis actually says Rebekah was 3. No, it doesn't. But he's going to say it does, and he's going to even open the Bible. But because he can't read, he doesn't actually read the verse.
Well, and we're going to find out. So, guys, here we are. We are 10 seconds into this video. And the 2 points that he has made. The church teaches she was 13 to 14. What's your source? A website that doesn't understand what historians are actually saying. And Joseph was in his 90s. According to what? What's your source? An article that doesn't even say that. The article says between 18 and 42. That's what the article that you put on the screen says. This is awful. This is awful. This is the first 10 seconds of his video that's supposed to refute us. But let's keep going here.
Why are you hypocritical when you talk about Islam?
Notice, we're hypocritical.
When the age difference is even greater than the age difference of Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Aisha.
So the age difference between Muhammad and Aisha, Muhammad was 54 years old when he consummated the marriage with Aisha, who was 9. And Joseph is in his 90s, according to what? According to unsupported traditions that this website is saying are completely unreliable. He was in his 90s, and Mary was 13 to 14, according to a website that can't cite an actual source.
You see?
That's what I mean. It's like the same. They think it's the same thing. I found a website that doesn't say this, and I found another website that says this, but it's false. And therefore, that's the same thing as this claim over and over again, like a beating drum in our most trusted Muslim sources on the life of Muhammad. This is insane. This is insane. This is Dawah. This is Dawah, ladies and gentlemen.
Secondly, according to Jewish tradition, the age of marriage, and this comes from Genesis 21 and 22, where Isaac marries Rebekah at the age of 40 years old. But how old was Rebekah? Well, according here to Genesis.
Let's wait for the references, ladies and gentlemen, because he's going to say chapter such and such and give us the verse that says she was 3. By the way, don't you love this deception? I mean,
it's amazing.
He seems to think if you're flipping through a book, that this will be impressive, especially if you get a big old book. I'm not going to get a big old book, but so here's a little Quran. It's like, and I could sit here and go, Muslims, I want you to get this point because you don't get it. I know this guy has followers now, and you don't see any problem with what he's done so far. You just don't, for some reason, if I were doing this to you, you would recognize it as evil, but when your guy is doing it, it's perfectly acceptable. You have no concept. You have no concept of moral consistency or integrity. So since you do not see that what he is doing is wrong here, namely pretending that he's looking this up in a source and not giving the reference, but giving the impression that, oh yeah, I've got a big book here, so it's in here somewhere. Trust me, bro.
Yeah.
If you saw me doing this, if you saw me going, according to the Quran, as everyone knows, in it, chapter 2, chapter 3, and so on, according to the Quran that I've got right here, Muhammad used to bang goats on a daily basis. Yep, he loved him some goats. He just molested goats left and right. That's all we find in the Quran. Goats, 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 goats. Yep, Muhammad banged a goat. Oh, he loved goats. Oh, he kept banging goats. Goat, 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 goats, goats, goats. Oh, here's some sheep. Some sheep too. Oh, and he loved to bang him some pigs. Oh yeah, he was in love with the pigs. Don't eat them, but you can bang them. Yep, it's all over. It's all right here. Ha ha ha. Yeah, see, it's all right there. How can you Muslims be so hypocritical as to condemn other religions when your book is filled with banging goats and banging sheep and banging pigs? Would you have the slightest bit of respect for someone like me if I did that?
Nope.
No, you wouldn't. That's what he's doing right now. He's pretending the Bible says something that it does not say. And he's pulling out a Bible to deceptively mislead his audience into thinking that he's getting this from the Bible. Oh, if I pull out a Bible and I look like I'm flipping through the pages, my stupid followers will think that it's actually in there because that's how dumb they are. Woohoo, Muslim Cowboy. This is Dawah. This is Dawah. I keep saying Dawah is deception. What does it take for you to realize this? And which of your Dawah guys is not exactly like this? Which one? Show me one. They're all, at least all the major ones, they're all exactly like this.
Yeah. How many times have we caught them editing clips, lying about their own sources? I lost count. It happens on a daily basis, it seems like.
And I've pointed out before, you can have a Christian who misrepresents things. You can have some Christian apologist and he completely misrepresents things. So you don't find this being standard practice. Why? Because if we catch someone, we'll be the one to point it out to him. We'll be the one. He will get called out by his own followers, by fellow Christians. He'll get called out. Dude, you're saying this and it's false. Stop it. In Islam, it's just completely acceptable. The rule is not be honest with the text and be truthful. The rule is say whatever you want so long as it's defending Islam, and say whatever you want, true or false, doesn't matter, completely irrelevant, as long as it's attacking other people's positions. That is the rule of Dawah. And they expect us to take them seriously when they act like this. Okay, so he says this in Genesis.
21 and 22, we find that Rebekah was only 3 years old. And this is confirmed by all
Problem, Rebekah isn't even mentioned in Genesis 21. Not even mentioned in Genesis 21. He says this in Genesis 21. Whoa, look, did you see this? Watch what he said right here. All rabbinic. So let's go
all
back.
of them? You
and
sure
this
about
is confirmed
that?
by all rabbinic scholars. This is why the law in Judaism for marriage begins at 3 years old. According to the...
Okay, so three completely false claims there. One, that this is in the Bible. It's in Genesis 21 to 22. Again, Rebekah is not even mentioned in Genesis 21. She's first mentioned in Genesis 22, right? And then you get the actual account of her in Genesis 24. It mentions her just to introduce her name, because she's going to appear later in Genesis 24. So he claims that this is in the Bible, that she's 3. He claims that this is the consensus position of all rabbis. All rabbis agree on this. And that the age of marriage, according to Judaism, is 3. Lie. IP, did he say anything that is correct? Did he get anything right there?
No, it's all nonsense. I don't even know if he can read. Like, honest, I'm questioning if he can, because he's just flipping through pages and he says it's right here in Genesis 21 and 22. As you pointed out, it's not in Genesis 21, and in Genesis 22, it doesn't mention her age. He does not understand the actual rabbinic commentary, what's actually happening, and where this idea actually came from in later Talmudic and Mishnah type texts.
He has absolutely no clue. But let's do something crazy. Let's actually. So No mention of Rebecca in Genesis 21. You do have a mention of her in Genesis 22. Let's see what it actually says, because, guys, everyone needs to learn this passage. You need to learn that this is at the end of Genesis 22. Remember that, 22, Genesis 22. Remember it, 22, like a gun. The gun that you got when you were kids, if you grew up in West Virginia. You got a 22. Well, first you got a BB gun, then you got a 22. All right? So Genesis 22, and just go to the end and read this with your Muslim friends. And is it saying what they claim it's saying? Because what they say is, see, there's no age given for Rebecca here. You have to kind of piece it together and say, oh, so-and-so was this age, and when this person was this age, and when that person was this age, then so-and-so was this age. You have to try to piece it together. You can't piece it together without completely misreading this part in Genesis 22. So you have to misread this part, or you can't get through. You have to read this in a certain very, very strange way. Well, let's go ahead and see it. So Genesis 22, this is about the sacrifice of Isaac. So this is the story of Abraham and Isaac. I have a pretty detailed video going through this passage. And then at the end, so we'll start at verse 19. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham lived at Beersheba. Now, after these things, it was...
That's key right there, verse 20.
Yeah. After these things, it was told to Abraham. So Abraham gets news from home. Why? Well, he moved a long way from home. How do you know? This isn't like today where you could call someone on your cell phone. This isn't like today where you can email someone. You didn't even have like something like the Pony Express sending letters back. So you're not even sending letters. You don't have it. You don't have the U.S. Postal Service. You would eventually hear news from home after you've been because some travelers or some traders would come from some other area, and you say, wait, you came from where? Oh, is there any news for how things are going for my family that I haven't heard from for 10 years? What's going on back home? I haven't seen them in such a long time. Give me some news. So Abraham is told how things are going back home. Now, after these things, it was told to Abraham, behold, Milcah also has borne children to your brother Nahor. Uz his firstborn, Buz his brother, Kemuel the father of Aram, Chesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. Bethuel fathered Rebekah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother. Moreover, his concubine, whose name was Reumah, bore Teba, Gaham, Tahash, and Maacah. So, how are you getting an age for Rebekah here? How are you getting an age? Go ahead.
The rabbinic sources claim that this is the year Rebekah was born. As you can see, it's not in the text. Yeah. These are just later conjectures made by rabbis that this is the same year Rebekah is born. Then they go to the next chapter and it says, when Sarah died. Now, what they claim, again, conjecture, not supported, way too speculative, probably false. They claim that the reason Sarah died is because she was so distraught by seeing Isaac taken up on the mountain and almost killed that she basically died. Again, not accurate, because Genesis 22 says Abraham and Isaac had walked for like 3 days away from where they were staying. So Sarah is nowhere near. But this is later rabbinic conjecture trying to calculate these ages. Based on that, they say, well, Rebekah had to be 3 because just after Abraham sends his servant, and it'd be about 3 years or so. But all conjecture, all nonsense, all made up by far later rabbis who just made error after error here. And this is why you just can't take everything they say as if it's a dogma.
So a rabbi misread this and passed it on to others. And as opposed to what our good friend, the Muslim Cowboy, claimed, no, this is not the consensus position. You have multiple positions on the age of Rebekah. The claim that she was 3 is based on a clear misunderstanding of this text. The text is not saying this. So the reasoning, again, and that's why everyone needs to become familiar with this. The reasoning here that some rabbi actually thought, and which is what every Muslim Dawah guy uses now. Every Muslim Dawah guy does the exact same thing. And they insist that since a rabbi said this, we all have to say the same thing. We all have to agree. No, we don't. If we think someone is reading the text in a stupid fashion and has committed an obvious blunder and misunderstanding, we do not have to. I mean, IP, this is so insane. If a rabbi says it, you have to agree with it. No, I do not. I would look at his reasoning. If he can show me how he's getting this, I would be happy to agree with him. He can't, because this is stupid. It's stupid to read this like this. So guys, I'm saying it here. If a rabbi reads this passage and concludes that this is the moment Rebekah was born, which is what was concluded, that's stupid. That is a stupid, not because it has, I'm not even talking about morally. I'm talking about reading the text. This is a stupid way to read the text. So the claim is, since this is when Genesis mentions Rebekah, this means Rebekah was born right then, right? Since that's when Abraham heard about Rebekah, right? So look at what is actually said. Milcah has also borne children to your brother Nahor. Uz his firstborn, Buz his brother, Kemuel the father of Aram, Chesed, Hazo. Since Abraham is hearing about all these men for the first time, does that mean they're all born right then, right now when he hears about them? No, one of the people who's mentioned is Bethuel, who fathered Rebekah. Does that mean that Bethuel was born at the same time his daughter was born? No one would conclude that. You'd have to be absolutely insane or really, really sloppy at reading. And yet the Muslim defense is, since Rebekah is mentioned here, this is exactly when she was born.
Yeah, and if you do the math, I mean, Abraham was pretty old. We don't really know Abraham's age, but he would still be pretty old because Isaac's birth was miraculous. Nahor would have had multiple children at this point. Those children would have been having children as well. So Nahor could probably have had multiple grandchildren at this point. Rebekah is probably much older at this point based on that, because again, so much time has elapsed. And this is why I talked about Abraham having a child in his old age. You're talking about someone much older, not someone who's a young strutting cowboy out there who's only 30 or something. And so Nahor's children are not just having children at that point. They're probably also approaching adulthood or in their adulthood at that point.
Yeah. So does this passage that is cited, because keep in mind, it's the Muslim Cowboy says, if you just read Genesis 21 to 22, that's where it says Rebekah was 3. Yee-hoo! This is the only place in Genesis 21 to 22 that mentions Rebekah. Is this saying how old she was? No, it's saying Abraham heard news from home about all these people who were born. It gives the name of the men. It mentions Rebekah only because it's about to go into the story of Rebekah 2 chapters later. Are you getting an age for Rebekah here? The Muslim Cowboy says yes, clearly she was 3. Not what the text says. It says this is when Abraham heard about his family back home. That's it. That's it. So
yeah, and what they'll try to do is they'll try to play with the ages, and they'll say, well, if Sarah died at this age, then Isaac married at this age, they'll try to do these mathematical calculations based on the ages in Genesis. So, but that doesn't work because again, notice the time gap in verse 20. Now, after these things, it was told to Abraham. That could have been a year. That could have been 10 years. We're not told. And it also doesn't say when Rebekah was born. It just says Abraham heard about these people, unspecifying the years they were born.
Yeah, she's clearly not very old because she's called young woman, and as we're about to see. As far as this is concerned, she could be 30 years old. As far as this text is concerned, she could be 1 year old. She could be 30 years old. This text does not say. It's just he heard news from back home. That's it. That's what it's saying. He's been gone a long time. A lot of stuff happened while he was gone, and he hears news about who his relatives are that he didn't know about. They tell him, he finds out about Rebekah. How are you getting an age here? You can't. And yet the Muslim Cowboy will dogmatically insist that since a later rabbi said, well, this must have been when she was born, therefore We're all bound by this, and this is the consensus opinion. Idiotic, insane nonsense from the Dawah clowns, as we always get. But notice, once again, IP. Suppose we opened up this Bible and we found, and Isaac had sex with Rebekah when she was 3. That's what happened. Would we say, oh, therefore it's okay to have sex with a 3-year-old girl because it says that Isaac did it? Is that what we would say?
Nope.
Oh, so we don't take Isaac as a sinless moral authority who's the pattern of conduct for all future generations?
I have never heard one Christian theologian, pastor, and you name it, ever say such a nonsensical thing. Only people I hear say that are the Dawagandists.
Yep. Now, I wanted to go on to Genesis 24 to actually get a description of Rebekah, but I see you have a source pulled up. Do you want to go through that now, or you want to check out Genesis 24?
Yeah, well, real quick, let me just put this up here because he said all the rabbinic scholars agree. No, they don't.
Okay, let's get that. All right.
All right, if you read here up on the side on this commentary, it says this. Rashi's comment on this apparently historically irrelevant detail is that the Torah informed us that Isaac, after marrying Rebekah, waited for 3 years until she was old enough to engage in intercourse and became pregnant. In his commentary on Genesis 24, Rabbi Kasher in his Torah Shalema deals at length with the conflicting opinions about Rebekah's age at marriage.
Wait,
so
conflicting opinions? I thought it was a consensus that she was 3.
No, apparently there's conflicting opinions, and you would know this if you read Muslim Cowboy.
So there are conflicting opinions?
Oh, yeah. Oh, some say 14. I mean, like,
you've got 14. You've got 14 on the screen. It says it right there, 14. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Some thought it was 14. Some thought it was 3.
Yeah, and some said 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so you haven't, and notice, some say 3, some say 10, some say 14. Why? Because they don't know. There is no source. And so they're all trying to piece together some sort of argument based on how old she was. Because why? Why don't they have an actual age like they have for like Abraham? Abraham was this many years old. Sarah was this many years old. Why don't they have Rebekah was this many years old? Because it doesn't say. And so you can kind of make an argument for anything you want. You can say she's 20. You can say she's 25. You can say she's 14. You can say she's 10. You can say she's 3. You could say anything you want. The question is, do you have a good argument? And I would say you have a terrible, terrible, ridiculous, absurd argument that she was 3. It's ridiculous. You can only get it. You only get it by completely butchering the end of Genesis 22. You have to be misreading this. But what is definitely false, what is definitely indisputably false, is that there's a consensus of rabbis. That's what he says. It's the position of all rabbis that she was 3. And just what you have on the screen here shows that's false. That's what we're dealing with. And just for the issue of 14, I'm going to put up just something just because this is easy for people to find. Cedar Olam here.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. So Cedar Olam here. Let's go ahead and take a quick little peek at this. So Cedar Olam. This is a translation of Cedar Olam. So notice you've got the ages there. Down at the bottom, after he spoke to them, he went down to Sharon and remained there 5 years, as it is said. And Abraham was 75 years old. So it's actually piecing things together. So what do we have here? And went up and returned, which is in Hebron. Aged kings joined together. And there, down to the bottom there, you start getting, and the meeting of Sodom, 51 years. From then, peace and quiet was on her, Sarah, and on her sons for 23 years. Okay. And they're trying to piece together the dates here, trying to piece together the dates of things. And look right here, Genesis 21. And Abraham sojourned, the middle of the page there, and Abraham sojourned in the land of the Philistines many days. These days were more numerous than the ones of Hebron, which were 25 years. So these ones were 26 years. In this chapter, Rebekah was born. We find that our father Isaac married Rebekah when she was 14 years old. When she was 14 years old. When she was, what, 3 that all rabbis agree on? No, that she was 14 years old. This is what we're dealing with, man. This is what we're dealing with. And this is the problem.
Will they ever correct themselves?
No.
Is it more important for them to look strong and stupid than just admit they're wrong?
They refuse to admit they're wrong. They would regard that as weakness. Total weakness, and therefore you just have to double down. And this is the problem. So you'll have a guy like this who, best case scenario, is a complete idiot, and worst case scenario is just completely evil. He's just completely evil liar who's using all of this to defend pedophilia, and he knows what he's doing. He knows he's lying. And he tells his followers things, and you can look at how many likes. Hey, go ahead and check out his tweet and check out how many likes are on that tweet from his Muslim followers who are cheering for him because he's defending child marriage, even though everything he says in the entire video is a lie. Everything he says in the entire video is a lie. And any one of his followers can do what we just did. Oh, he said this, let's look it up. Oh, he said that, let's look it up. Oh, he said that, let's actually look up the passage. Anyone can do that and find out that he's lying. Not one of them will do it. And if you make them do it, not one of them will care. Not one of his followers will care. That's what we're up against. Liars who know they can lie with impunity because their followers just do not care. I've pointed out before, I've been to prison. I've run into every single kind of liar and manipulator and con man you could possibly ever come across. I've never seen anyone lie. Guess what? A con man tries to cover up the fact that he's lying. These guys, it doesn't matter. They'll lie, and they don't care. Why? Because a con man understands that if he gets exposed as a liar, there are going to be consequences for that, and people aren't going to trust him, and that ruins his con game. The Dawah guys don't have to deal with that. They understand their followers are going to mindlessly support them and agree with them no matter what they do. Therefore, they can lie all they want, and that encourages them to lie. They know they can get away with it. They know their followers don't care. We'll expose them as liars. We'll call them out and say you're lying, but their followers don't care what we say. Their followers only listen to them. And this is so massively dysfunctional and disturbing. It's just really weird to hear this. So what we hear from the Dawah guys is this. We have to lie. We can't stop lying. We must continue lying. We have to lie about Islam. We have to lie about the Quran. We have to lie about Muhammad. We have to lie about Allah. We have to keep lying. And we can't stop there. We have to lie about the Bible. We have to lie about rabbis. We have to lie about Christianity. We have to lie about scholars. We have to lie about everything. We have to lie, because the truth needs these lies.
Absolutely.
The truth
How else can we
needs... Yeah, the truth needs complete deception in order to defend it. Is that what, guys, those of you who are watching, do you believe that? Do you believe that the truth has to be defended with lies?
And they're going to keep doing this. That's the sad part. It's going to come up again in another month or who knows, where someone's going to claim Rebekah was 3. And at least we can do, because the Dawah guys are not going to listen to anyone other than what their sheikhs basically tell them, is to equip you guys, the people that are actually listening, with the actual data so you can go out and just show how incredibly stupid these arguments are. Because, again, Muslim Cowboy is equipping his followers to look like idiots when they go up against our followers. They will just look absolutely befuddled because they'll be saying the Bible says Rebekah was 3, and they'll get corrected on it by people who actually have read the Bible.
Yeah, and so we're back to the same situation over again. It's like an even if, but in fact argument. Even if Rebekah was 3, we would not say it's okay. And we wouldn't be hypocrites for exposing Muhammad, because we would criticize both Isaac and Muhammad for this. So that's one. 2, if Isaac could, if we found out today that Isaac were an axe murderer, if we found out that Isaac and Joseph were both axe murderers, they were serial killers, wouldn't affect us. That we don't look to them as our sources of moral authority. We don't. That's not what they are. They're not the same thing in the Bible that Muhammad is in Islam. It's not the same thing. And then, of course, the third step is it's not even what the Bible says. And so we'll look at the methodology. When he was talking about the age of Mary and the age of Joseph, he couldn't show from an actual Christian source. He couldn't show it. So he had to go to websites, one of which didn't even say what he was claiming. One of which was specifically saying, this is unsupportable. This is unsupported. And so that's what he does. So he can't show it from an actual authentic Christian source. He has to go to a website and then even completely misrepresent what the website says. And then when he goes to the age of Rebecca, he pretends that one's in the Bible, even though it's not, and he's lying. And in order to justify his position, he says that there's a consensus of rabbis. That's completely false. What are we dealing with here? I mean, it's just lie. And as long as you keep lying, then you win. This is insane.
Liars.
This is absolutely insane. All right, guys, it's about 4:30. We definitely have to be off by 5. So we will just go
super chats or what?
Yeah, I just want to glance at Genesis 24 real quick. I want to glance at Genesis 24, and then we'll take some super chats, and then we'll be out. Genesis 24. This is where you actually get a description of Rebekah. So Abraham wants his servant to find a bride for Isaac, but he doesn't want one of the local pagans. He wants someone from back home. So verse 10, Genesis 24. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and departed, taking all sorts of choice gifts from his master. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. And he made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water at the time of evening, the time when women go out to draw water. What? The time when toddlers go out to draw water? The time when little 3-year-olds go out to draw water? No, the time when women go out to draw water. And he said, O Lord, God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today and show steadfast love to my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing by the spring of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Let the young woman, wait, he's looking for a young woman as a bride? I thought he was looking for a 3-year-old. Let the young woman to whom I shall say, please let down your jar that I may drink, and who shall say, drink, and I will water your camels. Let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Isaac. By this I shall know that you have shown steadfast love to my master. So he asks for a sign from heaven about who he's supposed to get as a bride for Isaac. Before he had finished speaking, behold, Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her water jar on her shoulder. The young woman was very attractive. Wait, the what? The toddler was very attractive? The young woman was very attractive in appearance, a maiden whom no man had known. What does maiden mean? It means young woman. The young woman was very attractive in appearance, a maiden, not a toddler. Not a toddler. And by the way, it's, you could say, oh, look, your toddler is so adorable or something like that. Very weird to be speaking about attractive in the sense of like a woman being attractive. The young woman was very attractive in appearance, a maiden whom no man had known. She went down to the spring and filled her jar and came up. So she goes out at the time when women go out to draw water. The young woman, he asked about a young woman. He's praying to God about a young woman. So he's looking for a young woman. And he asked God to show him which of the young women God has selected for Isaac. And then we read, the young woman was very attractive in appearance, a maiden whom no man had known. She went down to the spring and filled her jar and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, please give me a little water to drink from your jar. This was his test. She said, drink, my lord. And she quickly let down her jar upon her hand and gave him a drink, because they would carry water jars on their shoulders. That's what women would do, not toddlers, because a big jar full of water is pretty heavy. And she quickly let down her jar upon her hand and gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him a drink, she said, I will draw water for your camels also until they have finished drinking. Not just I'm going to give them a little sip. I'm going to give your camels water until they are stuffed. until they have finished drinking. So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough and ran again to the well to draw water, and she drew for all his camels. The man gazed at her in silence to learn whether the Lord had prospered his journey or not. Notice, if this was a 3-year-old getting all this water for camels, he would have been gazing at her, wondering how she has superpowers. So she draws water for 10 camels. She draws water for 10 camels. Young woman draws water for 10 camels. I'm just going to look this up. I've looked it up before. I forget what the answer is.
It's a lot of water, basically.
How much water can a camel drink? Oval-shaped blood cells allow camels to consume large amounts of water. This is what pops up first. Up to 30 gallons in one sitting. 30 gallons in one sitting. Let's assume the camels were already a little bit full. They weren't running on empty. So let's say 20 gallons per camel. So this little girl carried 200 gallons of water. 10 camels. This little girl carried, you're muted. This little girl carried 200 gallons of water. A 3-year-old. A 3-year-old right. Carried 200 gallons of water, according to the Muslim Cowboy. Yeehaw!
Well, he didn't read that part. He didn't read any of it. So how would he have known that? Come on. He's just looking at the Bible with the pretty pictures.
Yeah, guys. Abraham told his servant what he's looking for in a bride for his son Isaac. And the servant prays to God for guidance and gets the sign he was asking for. So when the Muslim Cowboy says, hey, she was 3 years old, he's saying that God, he's saying this is the Muslim Cowboy, saying that God is okay with grown men having sex with 3-year-olds. The Muslim Cowboy, why is he saying all this? He's trying to convince people that it's okay to have sex with a 3-year-old. That God wants grown men to have sex with 3-year-old girls. That the prophet Abraham, whom they claim to respect, sent his servant to find a toddler as a bride for his son. And that Isaac penetrated a 3-year-old girl. These are men who claim to respect. Muslim Cowboy and the Dawah guys, these are men who claim to respect God. They claim to respect Abraham. They claim to respect Isaac. They claim to respect Mary. They claim to respect all of these figures. And they say, oh, we respect them more than you. Okay, show us how you respect them. We're going to call all of them pedophiles. Ha-ha! That's how we show our respect. When we show our respect by saying you're a pedophile. Hey, you're a pedophile. That's how we say you're a great person. Isn't this insane?
It's insane, but this is what Muhammad said. So they have to follow it because Muhammad was a non-exclusive pedophile. So they all have to try to justify and say it's a good moral thing to be a non-exclusive pedophile. So why not make Isaac a pedophile as well? Because he's more like Muhammad then, and that's basically who they idolize.
Yeah, so the general rule, ladies and gentlemen, is, this is always the case in Dawah. The message as I understand it from the Dawah guys, like the Muslim Cowboy, is, if you tell the truth about our prophet, we'll lie about yours as punishment. That's what I get. That's the message. Because what? He's lying about Abraham. He's lying about Isaac. They're lying about Mary, whom they claim to respect. They're lying about everything. They're lying about Joseph. They're lying about the sources. They're lying about rabbis. They're lying about everything. It's lie, 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 lie. Why? Because you guys criticized Muhammad for something that is all over our sources. This is Dawah.
Well, I don't even understand how Mary could be that young if she was, hanging out with Aaron during the Exodus. She's got to be at least, 1,200 years old at that point?
Yep. Was really, 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 really old. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, once again, that's what we're dealing with in Dawah. We're dealing with chronic, compulsive liars. This is just the rule. Guys, when they can subjugate you using violence, violence is the go-to method. When they're not in a position to violently subjugate you, it's deceive you. That's it. That's how it works.
Go to my go to my Twitter page. Again, I caught another Muslim in another lie just the other day, editing clips of a Christian philosopher to try to make him say the Trinity meant 3 gods. Like, this is what they do.
Uh-huh. And again, no consequences from their followers. You could expose 1,000 lies from the Muslim Cowboy. It would not bother his followers even slightly. Just as when Zakir Naik is exposed for making things up and lying, none of his fans care even slightly. They just don't care. It's accepted. As long as you are lying for Islam, and as long as you are lying to attack other positions, anything goes. Lie all you want. And I think it's going to catch up with them because it is way easier to expose now. So, good stuff, good stuff. All right, let's go through some super chats for a few minutes, and then we'll be out. St. Paul. Wow, we have the St. Paul here. St. Paul says, sad thing to see how many people are stuck thinking in the mindset of a 7th century Arabian in the current era. And yeah, that's really the heart of the religion. The core message of Islam is that the creator of the universe is obsessed with everyone dressing, talking, living, eating, and even going to the bathroom like a 7th century Arab. That's what the creator of the universe wants. And if the final prophet had been Japanese, Muslims would be running around and wearing kimonos and speaking Japanese and praying in Japanese, because that's what God is obsessed with in Islam. Loaves of Bread said, what page did he turn to for Genesis 21? 60? Yeah, he's just flipping around and pretending that he's doing research.
I wish I could get a copy of that Bible, because then I could look and see what actual page he flipped to and see, because it's hard to tell, but it didn't look like it was Genesis, the actual Genesis passage.
Adeline says, idea, parody Matt Walsh's WIAW with Dawah responses. What is that? Do you know what WIAW is?
I don't watch Matt Walsh, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what yeah, someone's going to have to break that down for us. Beatrice says, suggestion, bring Proverbs 31 to the conversation. The woman described is clearly not a girl praying with dolls. Well, how do you know? She may have been a 3-year-old.
Yeah, you become the moment you get one pubic hair, you're an adult, according to the Muslim Cowboy. So therefore, voila.
And it doesn't say she wasn't 3. Doesn't say she wasn't 3, so we can say whatever we want. Yay! Welcome to Dawah. Yay! Sarah says, Muslim Cowboy, the girls, he really loves them. Muslim Cowboy, the best. Hey, is this a song? Muslim Cowboy, the girls, he really loves them. Muslim Cowboy, the best you ever saw. Muslim Cowboy, Chris Hansen, he don't scare him. Muslim Cowboy, yippee, yippee, yeehaw. I feel like I know this song, and I'm just not getting which one it is. Kevin says, what are the Quran passages and hadith that mention, that say or imply that the best relationship someone can have with Allah is a slave to master? One. Yeah, that's Surah 19. One second. That's Surah 19, because there are more. So the main one you want to go to is in Surah 19. That's where like the heavens and the earth are shaking apart. I will give you several references real quick. Go to 5:18, Surah 5, verse 18, Surah 19, verses 88 to 93. That's the main passage, and 21:26. But yeah, 19, 88 to 93. That's where the universe is about to fall apart at the thought of someone, of God having a son. And then, no, everyone approaches Allah as a slave. It says there is none who comes to Allah as anything other than a slave. Sunan An-Nasai 32:21 shows it wasn't seen as moral back then. I think that's when Muhammad says, I think that's the passage where marriage is proposed to Muhammad's daughter, and he says, no, she's too young. It's totally different for him.
Oh, yes. He gets all these special rules for him because he's special.
But we're the hypocrites, not Muhammad. I get 4. Y'all get 4, but I get more. But he's not the hypocrite.
Nope.
Ecclesiastes says, I dub thee the extrovert and introvert philosophers, and as much as David reads, it's safe to say that stack of reading materials behind IP, he read 3 times over. So they're saying, guys, yes, in case there was any mystery, IP reads way more than I do and recalls the information way better than I do.
That's what I do.
Chloe says, import the third world, become the third world.
Yep,
But
that's kind of what will happen.
But it's worth it for diversity. If you get diverse enough, you all become just completely Islamic and you all dress and talk exactly the same way. So that's the end of the push for diversity. Yo, EU-friendly stream time. Yeah, I know. And you can see, you Europeans can thank the Super Bowl for that. Be thankful for real football. Yeshua the King says, I can't put links here. I linked it in the chat, though. Okay. I really want a golden. Ooh. Oh, it's Muhammad hijab. Oh, I want a golden shower. Please do it. No, thanks. But yeah, the disturbing part is that hijab is familiar with a bunch of creepy stuff. What did Nabil think of bacon? Sizzling. Justin says, I started studying Mormonism years ago, and it was my study of Joseph Smith, who I would defend as the most obvious false prophet in history, that made Mormonism so obviously false. It is the same with Muhammad and Islam. You're familiar with that, huh?
Yeah, you'll see that a lot with like Mormons and Muslims. They start to study the prophets and they realize, well, this guy's not a good person. And it's the exact opposite with Jesus. Like people read Jesus in the Gospels, and he's this loving guy who gives his life, heals people, goes to the weak and the oppressed. Exact opposite with these guys. It's just all about sex. It's all about whatever. God is just giving them all the desires they want. It's night and day comparison.
Yeah, especially like the apostle. When Paul describes the lives of the apostles, they had way rougher lives, right? They had rougher lives, right? It was because we're apostles, we're called to a much higher standard and to a much more difficult life, not just God showering us with everything we can think of.
Absolutely.
Khalilullah Downing is in prison for child abuse. Yeah, I think we did a fundraiser for his wife a while back, and because that was another Dawah guy who was. Guys, that's the point. Your view of whether it's okay to have sex with a little girl has real world implications. Why do you guys keep talking about this? Is not simply theoretical stuff. This is not simply a point. This is not simply a point to make fun of Muhammad. There are real world implications that people like. So take someone like Ali Dawah. He says if his daughter gets her first period at the age of 9, he'd tell her she's ready to be married. What if she says, okay, daddy, I'm ready to be married? He's going to pass her off to another Dawah guy for some guy to start banging. And that's what we're responding to.
I mean, people like Daniel Akikachu or even Muslim Cowboy are going to have Muslim fans outside of the U.S. or in places where there are rules that allow you to marry children, unfortunately, because that's the current state of the world. They're going to justify this kind of crap in their desperate attempt to lie to get people to become Muslim. And it's going to cause in hundreds of girls being harmed by disgusting old men that are pedophiles. And they're justifying it all. They're going to pretend that's a good thing. They don't care about the girls. These Muslim Dawagandists have never cared about women. That's why they don't understand what marital rape is. And that's why they're promoting child marriage.
Yeah, and that's why in a previous live stream where we were discussing this, I actually brought up an article on breeding pigs. And the article said that if you're breeding pigs, do not start breeding them as soon as they get a menstrual cycle. Don't do that. You have to wait until let them develop for longer. And I pointed it out to a couple of people, and people have pointed out that it's the same in dog breeding. That dog breeders will tell you, hey, do not let your animal start reproducing just because your animal has reached puberty. So pigs and dogs are treated better by pig breeders and dog breeders than the Dawah guys say they should treat their wives. The Dawah guys say that you should treat your wives worse than pig breeders and dog breeders treat pigs and dogs. But we respect women. We give women's rights. You see, my goodness, what is this?
There's a reason in the Islamic world the actual age of expected life, life expectancy for women is actually lower than men. It's like it's the opposite in the West. In the West, women have a higher life expectancy, but in the Muslim world, as there's a book called Are Muslims Distinctive points out, no, in the Muslim world, women actually have it far worse. It's actually quite horrific.
Mm-hmm. Based on the impact the Muslim Cowboy is having on people, I would say he's an undercover Christian, just like AP. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
That is an ongoing suspicion. Like if you were, like these guys sound authentic to me. They sound to, they seem like they really believe in Islam. But if I were to decide to go undercover as an undercover agent and pretend to be a Dawah guy in order to expose Islam from within, I would pretty much act exactly like Daniel Haqiqatjou acts. Like exactly, I would be exactly like that. If I were trying to destroy Islam from within by pretending to be a Muslim, I would act exactly like Daniel Haqiqatjou acts. Ecclesiastes said, "Thank you, brothers, for protecting God's children." And interesting Oklahoma law, the Millstone Act from Matthew 18:6. It would be funny if they actually like tied millstones on people. Ecclesiastes said, and the Crucible is ran by Andrew Wilson and has Jim Bob on the Crucible. Oh, so that's a buddy of Andrew Wilson. And has Jim Bob on the Crucible, has a big audience also for debate. Great many of the fans want verbal blood. So as IP pointed out, you're going to have to contact him separately and make your case.
I don't, that automatically is raising red flags now, because I don't want to get, I like to have like respectful debates, like the debate I just had with Tahir, where it got hot, but verbal blood, if you're going to use that language, it's probably going to deter me from ever going on there, because I don't want this to become a mudslinging contest. I try to avoid that stuff as best I can.
Mm-hmm. Here we have Yeehaw! Finally caught you live. Yep. You can thank the Super Bowl again. Ecclesiastes said, David, I love how you take shots at Calvinists with Anthony Rogers. So funny, as smart as Roger is, the common Calvinists say God decrees good and evil. Keep in mind, I don't believe, I'm not a Calvinist, but I'm not convinced that it's false either. I just don't have a position on most of the issues I haven't studied. So I take jabs at Calvinists, but I take jabs at, I don't know. I kind of take jabs at everyone. In other words, if there were some diehard anti-Calvinist, I'd probably take jabs at him too. Even though I do see some of the objections to Calvinism, and I would take those seriously. But again, until I've actually gone through, I would actually, in order to take a side, I would kind of have to actually go through the entire Bible, like just focusing on this issue. Read all the major works by Calvinists, all the major works by Arminians, read everything on it, and then come to a decision. And it's kind of like, I'm just not that interested in it. But I believe in taking endless shots at people. Mm-hmm. How could Mary have been 13 when she witnessed the Exodus? That's the same point you were making. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, for anyone who doesn't know, in the Quran, the author of the Quran thinks that Mary, the mother of Jesus, is Miriam, the sister of Aaron and Moses. Doesn't realize those are two different. It's just, hey, they got the same name because in Arabic it's both Miriam, and so thinks they're the same person. That's funny. Ate those hadith verses in Farfour costume. Yeah, I saw that. That looked like a real Farfour costume. Where'd you get that, Chloe? That looked exactly like I've looked around for mouse costumes to be Farfour. What you had looks exactly like Farfour. So where'd you get that? Because I would like to order one as well. Hong Kong says, I don't see any, matter of fact, email me that. Wherever you ordered that, email me the link. I would like to check that. Hong Kong says, I said honky. I don't see any feminists fighting to marry children, but I do see many men fighting to marry children. Yeah. That's the other thing. You don't see, this 50-year-old woman needs to marry this 6-year-old boy. You don't see that. It's always in one direction these perverts go.
Yeah.
And Mike here, IP is jealous he cannot say yeehaw without his voice cracking. I don't know, that would kind of sounds good with the yeehaw.
Yep, I got that condition that I'll have the day I die.
And here we have, of course you never heard of this woman, you fake Christians that didn't even read the biblical book of Nicaea written by Alexander the Great.
When he went to Rome to make the Catholic Church.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? Like all the lies. I mean, that That's Sheikh Yusuf Estes stood there in front of an audience. Yeah, the Catholic Church was founded 3 centuries before Christ by Alexander the Great in Rome. You can say anything you want.
And
No,
it's on
they
the
do not
Catholic
care.
website. You
It's
can go
on the
see it.
Catholic
It's right
website.
there.
Mm-hmm. And Sheikh Uthman, oh, look, the kuffar, they got me, they stabbed me, oh, they got me, it's AP and David's fault, oh, why aren't they condemning this? Oh, but don't worry, guys, they caught the guy, he's in prison. Lie. If Muhammad was alive today, he would have to stay 2,000 feet away from a children's school. Yes, and seriously, I mean, any of these guys, Daniel Hakikachu, all these guys, people should be keeping an eye on them. Luke says, serious question. With so much evidence, how does Islam still exist? I cannot explain it even logically. Yeah, that is an ongoing issue. All right, guys, there are some more super chats, but we're out of time here. So, yeah, go ahead and share any what you're about to say and any final thoughts you have on this whole issue, IP.
Oh, sociologically, it's become a cultural thing, so a lot of people just sort of stay there. It's also a big loyalty thing. It's about there's a lot of, I think, statistical factors, but I don't think. I mean, based on what this kind of stuff we've seen coming out of the Muslim world lately, with coming out of places like Pakistan and the polls done in Iran, it's not looking good for the Muslim community right now.
Indeed. All right, guys. So once again, find me a Dawah guy who will not do this. Find me a Dawah guy who, if you criticize Muhammad, will not instantly start lying about Mary and Isaac and Rebekah and so on. It's a pattern. It's an issue. And what that means is, and here's the real takeaway. Whenever a Dawah guy is telling you something, you need to say, give me your source, lay it out in front of me. I want to read it, because there is no scenario where I can trust anything you're saying. I cannot trust what you are saying, because you have exposed yourself as a complete liar. You are dishonest. I cannot trust you. And that is true for any of their followers, because any of their followers are here. Well, the Muslim Cowboy says yeehaw, so I'm going to say yeehaw too. And they'll run and tell you the exact same thing. Say that, tell them. And this is how you expose them. A fan of the Muslim Cowboy says, look, well, Rebekah was 3. I saw the Muslim Cowboy say it. Yeehaw. Okay, show me that. Pull up the article that he was citing. Now let's go through this. And you just have to do it. Guys, that's a lot of work. It takes us years to get them to acknowledge something. When they make up something, perfect preservation of the Quran, scientific miracle, when they make something up, it takes us years, sometimes decades to expose it, but you just have to do it anyway. Now, we are to an age where we can actually expose things much faster using the internet, so we want to take advantage of this and destroy the Dawah. And so let's keep going. Let's keep doing that. All right, everyone. Not sure when I will be up live again. Everyone, make sure you follow Inspiring Philosophy on his channel. I didn't put the link in yet. I'll add the link to the description box. So check out his channel. And if you can, support him on Patreon. We need guys like Inspiring Philosophy, fully dedicated to doing all the research that the Dawah guys hope we are not going to take the time to do, because it's necessary to expose their lies. All right, everyone.
I will.
Catch you next time. Oh, wait, I don't even have my thing. Darn it, I don't have my song hooked up. We'll have to do that next time. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.